Sucio Talk. Sucio Talk, chilling. What up?
What's happening?
And my man, Reid Martin. Shout out to you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Repping Lone Mountain Wagyu.
That's right.
Ooh, where you guys based
7-year anniversary.
7-year anniversary for you.
That's throwback, huh?
Ooh, how long?
7 years. This last winter, yeah. So like December was my 7-year anniversary.
And then in the company itself, how long has it been around?
The company itself, that's a good question. I guess it's gone back to like 2003, 4, 5, that area right there.
Right.
That's about.
Got you.
Yeah, so it's been, over 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
They've been breeding Wagyu cattle, and but for me, it's been 7 years.
Okay, 7 years at Lone Mountain Wagyu. And then what is your job title there?
I am currently the COO
Okay.
of Lone Mountain Wagyu, which is our beef company, which, of course, we have a history back in the day.
Hell yeah, baby. Restaurant in Meadowood.
That's right, for
That's
years.
right. Yeah, for years.
And also Lone Mountain Cattle Company.
Okay.
So there's two different companies, and I'm the COO for both.
Congratulations. It
Thank
sounds
you.
like you got a promotion since the
I
last
got a
time I saw you.
promotion probably since the last time you saw me. Yeah, but it was not since we worked with the restaurant, but
Right.
But yes, since it's been about 4 years, I guess, since I
Okay.
got that promotion. Yeah, so
Dope, man.
yeah, it's
Hell
cool.
yeah.
Not just sales anymore, so I have to get involved in all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I get a greater appreciation for operators,
Definitely, man.
restaurants, or otherwise. It's like
Mhm.
a lot to think about, all the things that go into it.
Yeah. Damn. So that's what you're doing now, but here on Sucio Talk, we got to take it all the way back. So where were you born, Reid?
I was born in Wairika, California.
Okay.
It's about 50 minutes from the border,
Okay.
California-Oregon border. Yeah, I just off the I-5, like the last town in California. It takes about 5.5 hours to get home from the city. And I grew up in a place called Scott Valley. It's just west of Wairika on this Highway 3 going towards the Trinity Alps. And I grew up on a farm. I grew up on a dairy farm. And,
Oh, damn. So milking the cows every day.
milking the cows, feeding the calves. I was feeding the calves as a kid and making hay in the sunshine in the summertime and, dealing with the snow in the winter and really intermountain kind of place. And my parents are still there. My younger brother's taken over the dairy farm. And so it's, my brother's the third generation on the place. My grandparents bought the ranch back in like 1950. They were from Southern California, and that's where I was raised. Had an amazing kind of upbringing, and really from the very beginning was like just hook, line, and sinker for beef cattle, and was like studying Angus magazines and catalogs when I was like 6, 7 years old, 8 years old.
What about it drew you?
Well, we lived in a community, and it's still the same as it was then in terms of it's all beef cattle. So it's like 90% of the community was beef cattle, and we had a dairy, and there was like 2 other dairies. And so I always wanted to kind of be like my friends, or I kind of took to the community right where we were.
Yeah.
And so it was all beef cattle. And so what happens sometimes with ranching is you have heifers in a pen, right? And there'll be a bull next door. And, what happens sometimes? The bull gets in with the heifers.
Right.
And so that happens sometimes at our place. And so then my dad would have like what we call an F1 or first generation Angus Holstein cross.
Okay.
And I said to my dad, this is, like I said, I'm like 7 to 8, I'm probably 9 years old at this point, 4-H. And I said, I'll trade you one of my Holstein heifers for that beef cross heifer. And I started a beef herd.
Okay.
And I bought some heifers from a neighbor, and I judged livestock in high school.
Okay.
And in grade school as well, and then also in college. And so in livestock judging, you judge sheep, hogs, not pigs, hogs, and beef cattle. Those are the 3 species of animals that you judge.
What specifically are you looking at?
Depends on the breed. It depends on the class. So you have breeding animals and you have slaughter animals. So they have different criteria you're looking at. But you're looking at cutability, doing ability, meaning how they would live in nature, how they would live on a ranch, how they could convert, all that kind of stuff. And then even more like kind of things you would expect from like a dog show, even, you know, like beautiful lines, like integrated front end, how their head looks, all that kind of stuff too. So
like the show pigs.
Exactly.
I recently catered a rodeo.
No way.
So yeah, in the Cow Palace.
Oh yeah, I love the Cow Palace.
Yeah.
That place is a dope place.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy in there.
It's got more history almost than in almost any place in San Francisco now because it's holding on to it. You know,
it gets forgotten because it's, you know, it is where it is, but it's like. Yeah, I went in there. I was like, "Damn, I can't believe that in the same place where there's like monster truck rallies and fucking
Neil Diamond
concerts." Yeah, that's what I'm saying. like historic bands. You see all the like WWF and shit. You see all the posters when you're in there.
Well, that's part of my history actually. So I grew up there, but my mom, she's from Livermore.
Okay,
her only sister, my Aunt Barbara and Uncle Larry, they live in Millbrae, and so we used to come and visit them. You know, like growing up and go to the city.
Yeah.
But her son, Dylan, who passed actually, he died from cancer when he was very young, was sad. He had like these T-shirts from like shows and stuff like that. And I had like a Use Your Illusions too. Yeah. Like Guns N' Roses, like T-shirt that I would work in the summer, every summer. It was like, I wore it out. And it was like Cow Palace, was the date on the back, you know, because that was the show that Guns N' Roses came through San Francisco. They played Cow Palace.
Damn, that must have been a sick ass show.
I think it was like early 90s probably. I never went to a show like that. I went to like Johnny Cash, like the county fair. And
got you.
Cool stuff. Like growing up, like we would go to the county fair in Wairika, the Siskiyou County Fair. And that was like our big thing every summer. It was in August. And we'd spend the whole year like getting our animals ready for the show. I had lambs and dairy cattle, obviously, and I showed a steer my senior year in high school. Yeah. And at the fair, they would always have a music act that played on. They used to play on Friday and I think Thursday night. Thursday night was the music act. And like, Johnny Cash came through, like Conway Twitty back in the day.
Conway Twitty?
Yeah. He came to right before he died, actually. It was kind of legendary.
I know that man from the late night commercials. They sell the greatest hits. The hair, the style. Damn.
Yeah, he had a lot of style. Swag.
Definitely.
I actually named my market lamb Conway because he had a little furry on his head. And it was the year that Conway was coming in. Like, my mom would buy like the CD or the tape, whatever, era it was at the time. And we would listen to it until we knew all the words, because they were going to come. So it's like, better get ready for whoever's coming.
Yeah, you don't want to be the guy at the concert that doesn't know the words.
No, who else? I saw, The Devil Went Down to Georgia. Charlie Daniels band. I saw them at the county fair. Wow. But there was a drop off at some point because it used to be like these great acts who would come through. Right. And then it was like they didn't come anymore really because like touring wasn't as like profitable, I guess, at some point. And so then it was like harder to get people. But there was like a glory kind of period there.
Little time.
Yeah. I think like maybe like early 90s into like even the late 90s. And then it kind of started to go down a little bit, but it's still fun,
Were you at all interested in anything else growing up other than your animals? Like, did you play sports?
Well, I played football in high school. I played sports growing up. I was obsessed with like the Chicago Bears as a kid. I loved Walter Payton. We used to get the JCPenney catalog, for Christmas.
JCPenney catalog.
And we'd look through it and I would be like, I want the football uniform. Yeah. My mom would like buy it for me every year. It was like, $35 or whatever, maybe less than that back in the day with the plastic helmet. And I would like suit up and just run over the ranch. And I was really into livestock and that was like my family's whole thing. That was like our everyday, my mom played piano at the church. And so I'd go to the Methodist church in town, but it was like, just because my mom wanted me to go, really, it's like we had to go, and then we'd go to like the grocery store at the gas station after church and get like bag of Doritos and come home, cut firewood in the fall, listen to the AM radio, like the Giants or like the Niners on the radio, and it was quiet. It was like nothing like it is now in terms of like all the noise. Right, the internet was just coming out. It was like totally different times.
Were you sort of against the new wave of technology?
For sure. I was at some points. Yeah, that's funny you say that because when I went to college, so I graduated from high school in 99. Yeah. So I just turned 42 this last year. And by the time I was in college, like people had cell phones. Yeah. But I was like, I don't really want to get one. My dad was like, you don't be tied to that. And I was like, I kind of get that. It's like, I'll just get the CNS. Like I'll pay $9 a month for the line. Someone wants to talk to me, they call me on my phone. And then I studied abroad, and I don't mean to skip to that part, but I studied abroad in Italy, and I got a phone when I was over there. It was like like a brick, you know, like a Phillips. You know, you couldn't fit in your pocket. It was so big. But that was my first cell phone. I was 21 years old. So yeah, my first 20 years, I never had a phone.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's about the last time that ever happened.
Yep. And now I've had one ever since.
I was 16 when I got my first phone. Yeah. So it sort of.
Yeah. I didn't know how to text message. This Italian girl was like teaching me how to text message.
Oh,
like,
there you go.
About? I don't even know about this.
Must have been so, because I don't think, can you start a cell phone account nowadays overseas somewhere? I don't think so. I think if you have like an ID from, you know what I mean? Or maybe it's a prepaid.
Well, but I was living there.
Right. Yeah. You were living there.
So, I mean, I got everything, I guess.
What were you going to school for?
Well, I was in college at Chico State, and I studied business, actually.
Okay.
But I was over there because I had a minor in Italian. Okay. And that kind of goes back to my origin story a little bit. Like, my mom is Italian, and so I was like, she's not from Italy. She's from Livermore. Yeah. And she was born in Hanford, but her mom was a first-generation American. And she was the first person born in the U.S. Okay. She was born in Wisconsin, Racine, Wisconsin. And so I had like a really strong kind of connection because I had an Italian grandmother. And I always wanted to go. So when you asked me about what I was like into when I was a kid, I was like into ag stuff, and then identifying with my Italian heritage, I guess, was like, that was what I was into. So I always had this dream that I was going to like study Italian and like go and study there. And I don't know actually when it started, but I think by the time I was in high school, I was like pretty determined. Yeah. Went to Chico State and I studied Italian, and then I went to Italy for a year.
Cool. Where'd you live?
I lived in Torino.
Okay.
So yeah, I bought a bottle of wine from the Piemonte.
Ooh, region. My goodness. Yeah, we're going to open that up.
It's a delicious wine. That's another story. That's way down the road, but it's where I learned to drink wine. Actually, was in Italy because I turned 21 and I went to Chico State. So obviously, I never drank wine because no one in Chico drinks wine when you're 18, 19 years old.
Yeah, you're drinking Keystone Light,
Keystone Ice,
Keystone Ice,
pale ale.
Yeah,
wheat beer. The Chico State has the most legendary microbrews, or they were microbrews then. They're bigger now, but
there was back in the year 2000, microbrews was like a thing out here.
Well, I mean, obviously Sierra Nevada was I think established in like 1981, 83, something like that, and now it's really big, and they got a brewery on the East Coast, and but they were big back then. But
that's funny. I never look at Sierra Nevada and I'm like, craft beer.
Yeah, definitely.
It definitely is, but I'm
legendary. Like, yeah, because by the time we were
by the time I was drinking beer,
distributed everywhere.
Right.
Like you were seeing lights in New York City, and
yeah.
It's like you still do. You still see it in the bars in New York City. It'll be like Sierra Nevada in the window. You're like, huh.
There is a lot of beers that we don't get here that you can get in New York, like Left Hand Brewery, Brooklyn Brewery.
My girlfriend has that T-shirt, the Left Hand.
Yeah, it's all great beer, but it's hard to get it here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they love the beer from like Montauk and stuff like that. And
right.
It's good. Actually, I had it this last summer. I was out there and I never had it before. It's delicious.
Damn, that's dope. And so we're in Italy right now. So you're in Italy.
Well, we kind of passed some stuff up because
you did.
I studied where I judged livestock at Chico State collegially. So I traveled all over the country.
What the fuck?
Yeah, like a competition. Right?
Yeah.
So
you're like a respected member of like this community.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of kids who go through it, right? Yeah. Because it happens every year, and there's like a national championship, and our team is good. It's a lot of work, man. It's a whole year. It's like anything in college. Like if you want to do well at it, you have to put a lot of work in.
Definitely.
It's like I wish that we talked about that more. I've got kids, and it's like you have to work hard in order to accomplish stuff. You can't. You think Steph Curry is like he is today because of just God-given talent. No,
absolutely not.
Works so hard, and so we would spend countless hours at the university farm, like working on our craft, practicing, traveling, practicing. And we got to go all over the country. And the reason why that's an important part of my like origin story is because I went to Kansas City and DC when I was in high school with the FFA, the Future Farmers of America, for the national conference, and I traveled throughout the state judging livestock with my high school team. Yeah. But I had never gone on a plane until I had gone to DC and to Kansas City when I was 16. So I had never traveled. Like my parents are the most amazing people, and they did a great job raising me and my siblings, but we never traveled like far because we had a dairy farm. So it was like, you always had to be within like a few days.
Right.
You couldn't be gone that long. So, I never really traveled that much. And so when I was in college, I judged livestock and I traveled all over the country, went to Texas and Louisville, and I was like 19 years old, you know, it was crazy for me. Like,
yeah. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Country, yeah. And also like the countryside of the country, like in Iowa, like on a pig farm, like 5th generation.
Yeah.
And it was a big experience for me. And it was part of the reason why I went to Chico. I was like kind of recruited to do this livestock judging, so to speak.
Okay.
When I say that, it's kind of loose terms. And if the coach and the dean of agriculture heard this, he'd probably think it was, taking the piss a little bit, saying I was recruited. I did judge on the team, and I was like a starter, so to speak. But it was special, a special time. And you know how that is when you're like doing something like that, traveling and learning so much.
Yeah, for sure.
It affects you for the rest of your life. And
you never forget it.
Yeah. So I actually went to school to study animal science, not really knowing what I wanted to do, but just like kind of coming from where I come from, what I was going to do. And I think within like the first semester, I thought, I don't know if I want to be a nutritionist or a veterinarian. Like, this is it's not really piquing my interest per se. And so I switched. I decided to go into business, straight business. So I left the school of agriculture and I became a business major, Italian minor. I did the livestock judging. And then in my 4th year, and there's another whole story to this. In my 4th year, I went to Italy and I studied for a whole year in Turin, or Torino, as they say in Italian. And I did all like 300 level like business classes when I was there. I got to travel. I went to the UK. I went to Ireland. I went to Germany. Went over. I went a lot of places in Italy. I actually made a point of like not traveling too much because I wanted to enjoy where I was living. And there was a lot of kids who were there for like one semester, and they were just like every weekend going somewhere. But I was there for an entire school year, so I had a little bit more time.
Right.
But it was like, it changed my life forever, and I'm so glad that I did it. And so many kids, working at Estancia, at the company I worked for before I worked for Lone Mountain, we had these great kids who came from like Princeton and like Yale and business school at Stanford, and were interning with us. And I would always talk to them about studying abroad, and they're like, I can't do it. I'm on the squash team, or I got to graduate in a certain amount of time. And I thought, man, you got to go. Like, this is the time. It's like, there's a great movie called Appartamento Spagnolo, which means in Italian, the Spanish apartment. And it's all about this program called Erasmus. And it's like kids who are like 18, 19, 20, 21. And when you're in these programs, I was in an Erasmus program in Italy, and it's literally like Danish, British, everyone from all over Europe. And then they throw the Americans in, Canadians in. And it's crazy. I had made all these great friends. And still friends to them to this day, a lot of the people. So
that's nuts, man. Damn. So you're like 22 at this point? 21?
Well, I turned 21 in Italy.
In Italy.
And I just went back this last year for the first time in 21 years.
Wow.
So I turned 42 in September, and my girlfriend and I, we went in October, and it was like so surreal to have been, that much time had passed, but you remember the things like you remembered of then, and it was just as it was in some ways, and then in other ways it was really different. But yeah, I turned 21 there.
Damn. That must have been a wild time for you.
It was pretty wild. Yeah. It was like, I never like knew about staying out late like they do over there, like the clubs and stuff like that. It was,
shit, they eat dinner at like 10 p.m.
Late.
You know what I mean? Like,
not like the Spanish probably, but like intense. Like, and late. Everyone's late to everything. And I wasn't used to that. I remember waiting for my buddy Alfredo. I was like, hey, meet me up at 7 at this place. It's like 11 or whatever when he finds it.
You're just like, what?
You got to roll with it though. At some point. It's just how it is over there. It's different than it is here.
11. Damn, that sounds like I need to live there, bro. Just fucking whenever you want.
Yeah, but it really like set me on my my trajectory, because they like took me to places in like wine country to eat like frito misto and like all these like I had like these really crazy culinary experiences there. And my mom is like a great cook. And so like I grew up with food being like very central to our life.
Yeah.
It's always like, what's for dinner? Like we're thinking about that. Like I'm the same way. I'm thinking about what's for dinner. I mean, there's some people who are just wired. There's like, I don't know, like whatever, let's figure it out,
Yeah.
But that's the kind of way I was raised, and my mom would like always make like a full meal with like a casserole and like, canned pears and like a green salad or whatever. And it was like, we always had like a full set. And so when I went to Italy, it was like, wow, I'd never experienced stuff like that. The flavors, and it's just like a religion there, So have you ever been there before?
No. I mean, I've been to Rome, but I've been to Torino.
Even Italy then. So it's like, it doesn't matter really where you go because it's different in every place, but it's also the same in that it's very special,
It is very special. It definitely is. And you feel it as soon as you get there.
Yeah, they care about the ingredients a lot.
Yeah.
And, I mean, not to totally connect to our culinary connection, but I lived in Italy and I lived in Japan later in life. And I feel like in those two places I lived in, the places with the best food in the whole world.
Damn right.
And I have like a theory about it. And it's like, I think that like Japanese food in Japan and Japanese food culture is like the most consistent from top to bottom. And it's just like so crazy when you're like at a train station or like in a back street diner.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, I just got my mind blown. And in Italy, it's like, sometimes those places don't hit the same way as they do in Japan, but like the very best places and the places approaching the very best are like so insane. So I didn't get to experience those places very much as a student, but I got to go back this year and we had some really great meals in like Barolo and in Torino, incredible places, and like the wine and how it works with the food and the ingredients and the seasonality is just like so on point. The love too.
Yeah, man. I mean, I remember eating in a dining room in there, and I was by myself, but I could hear the other people talking about the last meal they had, and it was like, damn, these people are sitting here eating dinner talking about the last thing they ate.
Yeah.
It's like over here we're talking about Netflix and whatever's on TV. You know what I mean? It's difference of culture for sure.
No, for sure.
In the best way. Do you think that you'd ever live there?
Well, I have like a pathway to citizenship that my sister was working on because of my heritage.
You do?
Yeah, which is like, it feels kind of like a loophole almost. But like,
your sister's still working on it?
She kind of stopped at some point, but she has a lot of the paperwork already done. And
you got to get her.
I know. I've got kind of some pretty substantial plans here still, but like, I could definitely see myself there. I have one friend that I studied with over there. That's the other thing about it. It's like, and again, I told all these students, I told these college students, I'm like, go study abroad. I mean, you as a chef, I'm sure you would be like, go stage abroad.
Definitely.
I was just talking to a colleague today, and he's going to go work for Noma in Tokyo or in Kyoto, and then he's going to Copenhagen. I was like, that's incredible. Like, what an experience to travel and to work with that, group and that culture, but also to be in the place and to experience all that. So these people that I studied with in Italy, Americans sometimes too, or some of the Americans are my closest friends out of all the people that I studied with over there.
Yeah.
And one of them, his like parents are starting to live like part-time over there, and they're pretty stoked on it.
Dope, man.
Yeah. Cause it's like, especially now, things are like so different, with how strong the dollar is. And I think there's different times for us where it felt like it was like really expensive to be in Europe, and
definitely
it's way less now. It's like,
you hate to take advantage of a time, but goddamn, you got to.
I know. I mean, I saw like the headline today, the yen is like a 35-year low, and it's like, buy your tickets now. It's like, what the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
And we're thinking about going for Thanksgiving this year, and I'm like, we should go. That's like something that's in the universe telling us that we need to go.
Yeah. Dude, Thanksgiving is the best time to go overseas and
absolutely
and travel.
Yeah, I took my son to the UK like 2 years in a row during Thanksgiving break.
Yeah.
And he was like 8 and 9 years old at the time, in 2018 and 2019 before the world shut down.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. It was like such a great time to be in London. You just go into like Westminster Abbey, no issue. Restaurants, not hard. And then everyone's talking about in the summer, it's like, this is a disaster in the summer. It's like so many people are here. And
yeah.
I was like, oh, it's fine for us, quiet, cold, but we can deal with that.
Definitely.
Put a jacket on.
There's also times of the year is best to travel. Like I like if I'm going to Italy or UK or anything like that, I'm trying to go in the fall.
Absolutely.
Or in like, March, February, maybe.
Perfect.
End of February.
Yes.
It doesn't get as cold as it gets here, as far as I'm concerned.
No, it's in Italy now. It's like so warm, and even in the north, we were there in October, and we didn't even use our jackets at all, and we were like thinking it's gonna be cold. I mean, it was unusual, but that's becoming normal these days. Isn't it? The unusual is becoming normal.
Damn right. I don't even nowadays. I believe everything because 10 years ago, you would have told me half the shit that was available today. I'd have been like, hell no.
No way.
You know what I mean? No. Grocery shopping to your door. Like, you remember going to the grocery store as a kid, you just fucking up and down. Yeah. Just up and down.
Well, I went to Mean Jeans.
Right. Yeah, you went to a gas station.
We had they had a ledger. Yeah. My parents had an account, and you just sign for it, and then you get the bill at the end of the month.
No way.
Yeah. And that's how it was, like, even into the late 90s up there. In fact, I still think they have an account probably, but it's changed ownership. So,
right.
Yeah, but you get, like, the deviled ham. You get the Spam, stuff like that. Like,
Spam's delicious.
I had a woman, Rose was her name. She was, like, the school lunch lady when my dad was a kid.
Really?
And she, like, lived through the Great Depression. I interviewed her when I was in high school. And I was cutting firewood for her because it was like a community service sort of thing. And she was a family friend. And she made me like a Spam sandwich. And I was like, that is really good. Spam.
The Spam sandwich, Spam and rice.
Yeah. But the Hawaiians have the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Best Spam.
I used to have it with eggs in the morning. My mom would make it like that. Yeah. Or honestly, just like an afternoon snack, sear it.
Oh, yeah. I've done that. When I'm over in Hawaii, I like to cut it up and you can like marinate it a little bit and then like grill it even.
Yeah, yeah.
And like you said, make like musubi with it.
Yeah, musubi. I always ate it just like diced up into rice, like white rice and Spam diced.
So good.
Yeah, that's all you need.
So rice is like one of my favorite ingredients.
Definitely so versatile. Every culture has it.
I didn't really grow up with it too much. My mom would make like kind of long grain rice, and like kind of like work some butter into it, and it's fine. I like to have it like Japanese style, like short grain, nothing in it. I'm kind of like a purist that way, and then you like add all the flavor,
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, like fried rice and stuff like that. It's amazing, but I just lived in Japan.
Like steamed white rice.
That's how they do it over there.
Yeah,
and it's like and it has to be that way. And then you can add food.
It's very clean over there too.
Yeah, I mean, my kids they like to put like soy sauce on, and like you shouldn't do that really. That's it's not a good etiquette really to put it on. Like you can put soy sauce on food, but not on rice. And they have like different things that they put on rice, like furikake and stuff like that. But I'd actually just like to have it plain or with the food. In fact, I had it tonight. I had rice tonight.
There you go.
I made like a Hawaiian kind of.
You're all hopped up on rice, baby.
Yeah, I had like a seaweed salad with like some chicken that I mixed up with some like a kind of like a poke sort of flavor, and it was great. That combination of cold and hot with like hot rice. It's just so.
Damn, you're making me hungry, bro.
Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna order some takeout after this for sure. Crazy. So Italy, big part of your life. What are you thinking about doing with all your studies, like Italian and yeah?
That's great. That's a great segue actually, because I came back, and that's part of like the whole narrative around what it is to be a student at Chico State, and being able to afford to be there for 5 years and not to be in a hurry. And so I did 4 years. And then I had my 5th year. And when I got back, I went to my study abroad coordinator and I was like, I got to go back to Europe. I got to go. I got to get back there. This is where I need to be. This is where I belong. And she's like, Reid, there's no jobs over there. The Euro just got started. So the teachers, all the Irish and they have a leg up on you because they don't need a visa now. I was like, well, I'm not trying to be a teacher. I'm trying to do like business. And she's like, well, if you're trying to do business, you're not going to get over there in like the corporate world. You got to get a job here, work your way up, and then maybe you get placed over there if you work. And I'm thinking, wow, this is a lot. I thought I could just figure this out. I think I bought that book, What Color is Your Parachute at that point, probably trying to figure out what my career is going to be. And I interviewed, different places. This is actually really early in the year. This is way before I interviewed heavily. And she says, but you know, who was just here was the Japanese consulate from San Francisco. They came up and they gave this whole presentation about this program called the JET program, Japan English teaching. Like, if I were you, I'd totally look into this. It sounds incredible. I'm like, well, my brother had just married his vet school sweetheart.
Yeah.
And she was from Japan, but she like grew up in the valley down south and kind of Americanized, but she's a Japanese person and she's from Japan. Her family's from Japan, and they had just got married. And so I'd been through this whole wedding with all the family came from Japan. And I was like, I mean, kind of interesting. And I actually filled out the application and like drove it to the UPS to overnight to DC to the embassy on like the last possible day for this program. And that started my whole journey of like going towards Japan, because it took 7 months from that point of when I gave the application to when I was accepted and got a placement with the JET program.
Did you know that they were reviewing your application or?
Oh yeah, there's a whole process. Like you got to a certain point and then they took you to San Francisco and said, we're going to do like an in-person interview. You know, they had like lots of references and stuff like that because, you know, they don't want someone to like get over there and not work out because it's like a big investment to like go through the whole process of sponsoring the person and paying for all the travel, and they want someone to work out, you know, so they were like very careful about who they accepted. And I went like, this is dating me and also like the Bay Area. I like interviewed with Mervyn's to be like a merchant, like planner, like a business analyst. I interviewed with like a winery to be like a marketing person for a winery. And there was a couple other jobs that come up. And at some point during the process, I was like, I know I'm going to go to Japan. Like, this is what I'm going to do. If I get accepted to this, I'm going to do this. And so that was my first job out of college, was teaching English in elementary and middle school in rural Japan. And I did it for 1 year, and then I renewed the contract and I stayed for another year. So I spent 2 years in Western Japan, like near Kanazawa. Yeah. It was about 2 hours north of Kyoto. And that also changed my life. And it's funny how it like connects today with my job, working for a real Wagyu beef company.
Right, because that Japanese passion is there.
The Japanese passion, the Japanese history, the names of the cattle. I name all the bulls now. And I'm like grabbing like cities that I would go to. And like we're selling this bull in this upcoming auction, and his name is LMR Wakura 2781. And he's this great bull. And Wakura is this onsen town like near where I lived. And I have to choose names that I think that Americans can pronounce.
Right.
So, because you know how that is. Like the Japanese names are like kind of crazy sometimes. But it's fun, man. It's fun to reconnect with because I was a young man when I was over there too. So it's been a lot of moons, been a lot of years since I lived over there. But it set me on my trajectory to where I am today. And that was my first job. So
that's dope. How was living in Japan? Like to walk me through like you getting on the plane and like getting off the plane in Japan. Like, you know, where do you go? Wow. What do you do? What do you like? How do you get around?
Yeah, it was crazy.
You with a group or you by yourself?
Yeah, I was kind of with the group.
Okay.
So what happens is, I studied a semester.
Yeah.
So I got basic Japanese, right? Then I go over there and I'm like, none of this is working at all. They're like, say this, do this.
Yeah.
But before I even did that, we all flew to Tokyo, and they put us up in Shinjuku, and we are, I don't know, all like 22, 23 people are partying, you know, everyone's from like Australia, the UK, US, Canada, and we all get together. And then at that point they have like a big like convention basically. And they're like, you're all going to go out to your towns now. Right. And they like kind of set you up with some packets and stuff like that. But it's before you like, we've been given like a laptop or something. It's like, you know, this is, I don't know how many years ago now, like 18 years ago. So like mid 2000s, 2004. So it was kind of like, I think I brought a laptop with me. Maybe I brought some VHS tapes because those worked over there.
Yeah.
I brought Last of the Mohicans. So I'd come back from the bars and I would put Last of the Mohicans in my VCR and fall asleep to watching Last of the Mohicans.
That's a good sleeping movie.
It was and then sometimes I'd wake up and I'd finish it. I'd like have the wherewithal to like stop it. So I go out to like the little town where I lived, and they put me up in this like apartment, and it had tatami mat floors, no bed, no furniture, traditional Japanese house with like 2 rooms and a kitchen, and like the bathroom with, like with the furo, and it was very small but efficient. It cost me like the equivalent of like $200 a month.
Yeah.
I never like lived so well as I did over there, because I made like probably like 35 grand or 30 grand, but I had no expenses. Like I was eating at school every day, and my rent was like $200 a month, 200 yen. 200 yen. No, 2,000 yen. Sorry, 2,000 yen or 20,000 yen. I can't remember exactly, but it was a lot. It wasn't very much. And for the first 6 months, it was like really crazy and magical. And I was in all these festivals, and they kind of like bring you and everything, because they like love to have you there.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was like living in a rural place with not a lot of foreigners. So like young kids had never even seen like a white person before in real life.
You're like an oddity. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they'd seen the guy who was like there before me.
Right.
So then I'm like the new guy.
Right.
Right. But that was like it. It wasn't like there was like some business there that like employed Russians or something. It was like no foreign people. And it was beautiful. And like the culture was so beautiful. And the matsuri, the festivals in the fall when I first got there. And I actually met a girl like right away, and like got coupled up and had a girlfriend like right away. And she like,
dope.
Yeah, she helped me like in my life there, and was amazing. And I think about 6 months into it, I was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
I don't understand what they're saying to me. I've been here for 6 months. I'm trying so hard. Like I'm working really hard at studying the language, trying to get it. I'm like going into town, like buying like French wine to bring back to my apartment, and like kind of rejecting culture a little bit. And then I got past it, and then was like fully in with everything, like all Japanese stuff, cooking Japanese. I was eating only Japanese food at home, like no Western stuff at all. Right. Wasn't craving it. And so that was like my life for a year and a half. But the first 6 months, first 4 months was like really intense. And then you have this kind of like where you feel like disillusioned. Like, is this the right choice? Do I fit in here? How does this work? But I got through it, and you have to kind of power through it. And it's a real growth, I think, that happens then. And it was just so amazing. I just can't say enough about the place. I learned about food there. It was a huge thing for me with food. I got similar to Italy, the Japanese people, they're thinking about what they're going to have for dinner, right? They think about what they put in their body. They think about what ingredients go into something. They have a lot of convention around how food is made. So there's like a lot of things that they're like, this is how you do this. And I like bought into that. I was like the table manners. I bought into that. I like loved it. And I still do. And then to this day, so even to this day, like when I go to an authentic Japanese restaurant, like I want to do all the things, and I want my guests with me to like participate. I want to teach them about it.
Definitely,
because they don't know, right? And like sticking your chopsticks in the rice is like death, and it's poor manners. Even just having your chopsticks like laying around, like that's poor manners. You should like keep them organized. I mean, you're a chef, so basic stuff you'd think that people would know, but people are just like whatever, they throw them down or pointing at someone with you're not supposed to do all those things, so I got really into that, and I think it's like affected me to this day, where that kind of discipline and the passion like you were talking about is
they live it every fucking day. We're here, we got a choice. You can be passionate one day and then be a lazy fuck the next day.
They work hard, man. They work so hard.
There's no choice really. I find their culture to be very interesting, and a lot of people adapt it and live by it. And it's exemplary by all the, the white American sushi chefs that there are now. And
it's true.
And there's a big resurgence of that. You got Maddie Kammer doing like, Japanese inspired fine dining sort of.
Oh my gosh. It's like the influence on fine dining is profound.
Everyone. Single thread.
Yeah.
It's just identity.
Yeah, but even places like the restaurant on Meadowood probably would have
Definitely,
things, you know.
definitely.
Not like it's always sometimes it comes in subtle ways too. It's not like
Very
over
not
the
whole
top.
thing. Yeah, but that's why you got to love the United States because you can do that shit and nobody.
Yeah,
like you're not supposed to do that. You know, fuck it, we do it.
No, that's cool. That's true. And to your point, like thinking about like Nobu and some of the Japanese superstars from yesteryear, and today, they did crazy stuff, and they were like, "I'm getting out of here, and I'm coming to the U.S."
Yeah,
because I will be appreciated, and this is my perspective of it. And I think that sometimes there's people from Japan specifically who really love the States.
Yeah.
And they love to do American things. And so for them, it's like, it's really fun to get over here because it can be a lot over there. And not in a bad way, but just like, it's a small country. It's basically the same size as California. Like when you take all the islands in and they've got like something like 140 million people. We're talking about this state being too like densely populated. It's not even close, right? We got 40 million people in this huge space. They got all these people there and living on top of each other, like in Tokyo. Have you been to Japan?
No, okay. I have not.
So Tokyo is intense. Like the amount of people in a place, there's really like very few places like it. I mean, I know in China there's some really densely populated places, and Mexico City, Sao Paulo, but Tokyo is like pretty crazy. People live in like tiny spaces. It's just very different.
Were you visiting there while you were over there a lot?
Oh yeah. I mean, when people would visit, I would take them there. I'd meet them there and then come back to where I lived. Where I lived was like chill. People ride bikes, It was like country. It was funny. Like I learned a lot though. And my girlfriend at the time, Ikue, her grandmother would go to the garden plot every day. And she was like in her 90s. And she would like ride her bike to the garden plot and work for like 6 or 7 hours, like at the garden plot, just farming. And they have this thing called ikigaki, which is like basically like what powers your life? What do you live for? Right. And that's why they believe they have so much problems with like in retirement there, because work is their like driving force, their sort of will to live. And in more like kind of feudal Japan, sort of pre-industrialization, like everyone worked. There was no such thing as retirement really, right? You just got kind of slower and older.
Right.
But you always had that desire to live. And so, you talk about like Okinawa being one of like the longest lived people in the world, most centurions, and like the old grandmas like out there like harvesting the seaweed and kelp and stuff like that. And it's just like, that's like their life, It's like very simple, but it keeps them healthy. And there's
keeps them moving around.
Yeah. It keeps them moving. It's a healthy diet. I ate so well there. It was like, and I still like, that's my comfort food. So when I cook at home, I cook a lot of Japanese dishes, a lot of Japanese inspired food. And it's what I gravitate towards. It's like, some people like mac and cheese. I'm more of like a miso soup. Right. It's like, that's like, because that was where I learned to cook too. Really, I was, 23, 24 years old. I was at Chico before that. I didn't cook in college.
No.
We had burritos. Yeah. It's like, come on. We had
California burritos with French fries in them.
Yeah. No French fries at Chico. Chico, we had Tacos Day. That was the place. And it was open till like 3 a.m. You get burritos, you get like bad Chinese food in Chico, and like never cooked. But when I lived over there, I'd cook, and it was awesome.
And then, so you renew your contract, and when your 2 years is up, why did you leave?
I guess I felt a little bit of pressure from home. My mom was like, "You need to come back. We haven't seen you." Like I came back in the middle of my 2-year stint and spent like a few weeks in California. And then I went back and did my second year. And I think I was also like, if I stay for another year, it'd be great. But I'm ready to get into my career now. Yeah. And so it felt like the right time. So I don't really have a lot of regret looking back on it. But I did, on my way back, I did go through China. And I traveled a lot when I was there. I traveled to Thailand, and I went to Hong Kong, went to Australia. And on my way home, I did a solo trip where I flew to Beijing, and I spent like a week in Beijing by myself.
Yeah.
Like before the Olympics. And then I flew home from Beijing to San Jose, or to San Francisco actually. And I was like on East China Airlines, and it was like, I don't think that people could smoke still, but it felt like that was happening on the plane still. It was like so tiny. But it was a great experience. And that's when I learned that like Chinese food in China is entirely different than like Chinese food that I grew up with. And I was just on my ass the entire time. I thought it was so great, man. Like the food and the culture of food in China is just like so incredible. And I was really glad that I got that trip in because I haven't got back since, and it was an amazing place to visit. We got to see the Great Wall. And so, yeah, I come back from Japan, and now it's time for me to get a job in the States. And at that point, I was really focused on getting a job in agriculture or in food. I really wanted it to go that way. And so I come home, and my sister's in Sacramento. My parents were up at the ranch, and spent time with them. Would go down to her place and crash on her couch and like interview, and was on like the internet boards, Monster,
there you
and
go,
that kind of stuff. And I actually found my job on Craigslist.
Dude, Craigslist is king.
Yeah, I found my job, and then after I found my job, by the way, it took a long time to like get the guy to actually like sign me up.
Yeah.
This is Bill Reid from Estancia Beef. This is 17 years ago, and before he hired me, like put me through the ringer. But I found the job on Craigslist, and then I proceeded to get my place on Craigslist, my bed on Craigslist, my like used IKEA desk.
You can build
on
your
Craigslist.
whole life on Craigslist.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. So Bill had this posting on Craigslist, and it was for a sales position for Estancia Beef, and Estancia was importing grass-fed beef from Uruguay. And I was like, whoa, interesting, because this involves like beef, which is a passion of mine, international business, and global kind of business, which was a passion of mine coming from Japan, and I was interested. And so I got to the point of getting an interview with him, and he is living in the Haight, and he has me to Magnolia Brewing Company on the corner of Central and Haight.
Yeah.
And I've got my Macy's suit from college when I was like interviewing before going to Japan. And he shows up in like torn Wranglers and like Zeus like slipper shoes. And he's like totally bohemian. And I'm at Magnolia Brewing Company in my full suit talking to this guy about selling beef. And I had no experience doing it. And he had me go haul around with Bala Caronde from Preferred Meats, which is just up the road here in Oakland, off of Julianne Way, off of Coliseum. And I think he spent like a month working on me. I mean, he really made me work for it. Yeah. And then he gave me a job, and I was the first employee for Estancia Beef, and I sold to Preferred Meats and to Tony's Fine Foods in Sacramento. And we sold to retailers like Buy Right and all over the city. And I had like a outside sales job, and it was the best thing for me because I was excited about what I was doing. I was working in food service and in retail. Yeah. But I was also like living in the city that I wanted to live in San Francisco. And I was getting to know the place better because I was driving literally all over it. Right. From Santa Cruz to Santa Rosa to Napa. And you might not know this, you probably don't, but my relationship with the Meadowood goes back way before I knew you even. Really? And that's when I was working at Estancia Beef, and we were selling to Chef Vincent Natras at the restaurant, not at the restaurant Meadowood, at the grill at the resort. So he was the resort chef. Damn. I don't know if you knew Vincent. Or no. He was like the chairman of the St. Helena Farmers Market. He was kind of a big deal in town. Mm-hmm. He like went back to Whidbey Island and Washington years ago, but he came with me to Argentina and Uruguay, and we used to sell them ribeyes from Estancia, grass-fed ribeyes from Uruguay, and they would serve them there at the restaurant. Yeah, not at the restaurant at Meadowood, but at the grill. And we took him and Sarah Kieran on. I remember from Miss Ollie's here. She used to be at Front Porch in San Francisco. So I went on several trips down to Argentina and Uruguay with them.
Yeah.
With different customers.
That sounds like a hell of a lot of fun.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I would have never had the opportunity to go to South America. And I'm so glad that I did that. And it's why I'm here today. And it's really where I learned about my trade. And, you know, I learned a lot because it was a really like kind of all-encompassing job. Because like I said, it was like food service. And we were working with Preferred. We were working with Bassian Farms down in San Jose, and Tony's Fine Foods, which is now owned by Unify. And so it was like a mix of like independent grocery and like great kind of independent food service. It's pretty cool.
So did you sounds like you single-handedly kind of doubled the business for that place, being the first employee and like,
yeah,
you know,
I was there for 10 years.
Yeah.
So it was a journey, and my job expanded. I got the Northwest, and then I got the South and Southwest at some points. Bill had always kind of divided Northern and Southern California.
Yeah.
So I took over the PNW, and that was crazy because we were working with Portland, and I'm actually going to Portland this weekend. I'm pretty stoked about that.
Sick, man.
Yeah.
Hell
I haven't
yeah.
been there for a while, so I'm like looking forward to it. In Seattle.
Great restaurants out there now.
Oh man. Amazing.
Con.
Amazing.
Got to try Con.
I think we're going to go to Canard. When we're there, which is I've been to before, and then we're gonna go to Wine Country for a day out to the Willamette. I got a good buddy up there, so he's gonna hook us up a little bit in terms of what's happening. But
sick,
yeah, it's amazing. And it was again travel, people, what people are doing. Got down to the Southwest for the first time, Arizona.
Yeah, and
it was pretty eye opening for me.
Right.
And so I did that for 10 years. It was a startup life, and we grew, and then, we weren't making the margins necessarily. And then we got a big investor involved, and I was involved in that, like meetings, branding stuff, like things I'd never done before, but became like part of my life, and then it kind of all fizzled out at the end. And my job that I'm doing now kind of came up before the end of my time at Estancia, but it was sort of sad because it was like we were very evangelized and like passionate about grass-fed and the impact on the environment and the impact on the industry. And it got bought by another company, and the brand's like no longer anymore. And we developed like a domestic program called Pasture One, and it was all like domestically produced grass-fed beef coming from like Oklahoma, from Colorado, Wyoming. It was really great. So a little bit sad that it didn't work out, but after 10 years, sometimes it's good to
sometimes it's good to go
do something different.
You can live many lives.
Yeah,
it's much better that way.
Well, I've only lived one beef life though, so
well,
but
you did live the Japan life.
That's true,
and and the lives before that, right? Because at this point you're not milking cows anymore, right? So you already lived that life too,
That's true. That's
4 or 5 lives before you get here.
Yeah,
and what's your like secret to sell this stuff? Because whenever you came to Meadowood, I never thought you were selling me anything. But then again,
I wasn't. I wasn't though, because
we sought you out probably.
You know what? That's funny because when I was thinking about coming here, and I didn't prepare anything, obviously.
It's all good.
But
the way of Sucio Talked.
Right. I came to talk with you, Sucio, David Sucio, the chef.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about our existence, and it goes all the way back to John Hong.
It does, yeah. John Hong, credit to him, yeah.
He brought us in, so
that
goes back a ways.
I
need to see him when I'm down in LA because I'm going to be down there in a few weeks.
Yeah, definitely go see him. Yeah. Go see Kat.
Yes,
I mean, they're crushing it over there at Yongbon, and just
that's amazing.
Amazing place. I think they changed up the concept a little bit. It might be a little bit more like sit down restaurant, fine dining.
Nice.
When they first opened, it was a deli.
Chops. Those guys got chops.
Yeah, man. They're just like, Kat's one of those people that just goes home and cooks more.
Yeah.
After she's, just cooked all day. I don't fucking cook at home, man. I'm just like, I don't want to see it,
Yeah.
But when I'm there, I'm just like, yes.
Right.
But she's an animal.
Yeah.
And that's something different right there. And I'm grateful for all the shit that she taught me. And John too, just in terms of just being a visionary of like what Meadowood was gonna be,
cerebral
from his time as a sous chef to when he got to CDC. Yeah, for sure.
Smart guy.
And them two together, I'm like, who the
I know.
Like, this is award winning.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Couple right there. So
yeah, so John, he was definitely one who brought us in.
Yeah.
And going back to the Estancia days, we were always talking about synergy, because with that product, with the grass-fed beef product, you needed to have a connection with the user, right? Like,
yeah,
it wasn't like something that was just like, this is just an ingredient. You have to believe in what we're doing. You have to believe in the cattle, the rearing, like the people, the environmental mission, all that stuff, right? And so we had found that there, and that was our home run with Lone Mountain Wagyu, was the restaurant in Meadowood. That was like our diamond kind of connection. That was like our perfect alignment, if you want to call it something. Like it was meant to be. It was like we were there at the right time. They were there at the right time. And it was like, that was a perfect marriage. I mean, you went through so much product while you were working there.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was like, that was the gold standard for the restaurant. And that restaurant was the gold standard for our program. And it still is to this day.
I mean, your program was special. You were only, you're only cutting so many heads at a time.
Still, yeah.
I mean, how many, cattle were you guys doing?
We're still only doing like
8.
Yeah, like we're doing like 30 to 40 head a month.
Right.
It's very small. So it's like,
and that's grown even from the time we were with you.
Yeah,
I think it was like 12.
Yeah, it was probably smaller then.
Right.
And I was pretty early on.
Yeah. And I loved it too, because you're like, we would want something. You're like, oh, it's already accounted for. You know what I mean? Whatever offcuts there were, or whatever it was, you guys really did a good job of selling the entire animal. There was nothing left behind.
Yeah, that's the challenge, and working in the beef industry for like almost 18 years or whatever it is now. It's like the natural fall of the animal is like so complicated. It's like really easy to like sell like one cut, right? But to like find a place for everything is our plight. It's our opportunity. Yeah. But it's also like so challenging, right? Because you have to get value everywhere.
Definitely.
And the restaurant in Meadowood was great because you guys would take like the strips, the ribeyes, the sterling caps, like you were flexible a little bit around using not just one middle meat. It was just a great relationship.
We didn't have a menu.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
It was the best.
It's just like these people are getting, the chuck, these people are getting this, like whatever it was.
Yeah.
And we could sell a whole pig that way.
Yeah.
Some would be belly, some would be shoulder pieces, like whatever it was.
I don't know. Were you there when I came for like, I came in, you may have been gone at that point already when I came and did lineup and in the octagonal front room.
I think I was there for that, bro. I left in 2019, February.
Oh yeah. You were there then.
Yeah, I was definitely there.
You were there.
Yeah, for sure. You almost became a part of the family.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about Meadowood, because like we were really just that synergy, like you were talking about with the purveyors there, was so tight.
It was heart.
Yeah, for sure.
And we would do anything for you all, and it was always a really great business relationship too. So that was like super important. But that was like a career highlight for me, to be honest. Like standing in that room with Chef Costow and the whole team, and it was just. And then I had a meal that night with my friend Chef Shola from Philadelphia, and it was really great, man. I'm so glad that I did that because, as we know, there was an end to that era.
Of course.
And I think about it sometimes because I was at my parents' actually, and it's like almost like a moment that it matters for me and you and for the whole community around the restaurant,
right?
But I remember where I was,
Yeah, definitely.
And I was so sad, not because we were losing the business. Of course, that was really traumatic for us. We're small, we don't do a lot. But I just thought about all the people, and it really, I was on my ass, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like it was heartbreaking for me.
When you think about it, like everything took so many years to build. The wine cellar, everything in that restaurant was custom made.
Yeah.
The plates, the design, the wall, and the larder was Charlie built. Wow. And all that stuff just went up. And it's just like, damn.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if it'll ever come back, but I always told Chef, like, yo, your Michelin stars are immortalized forever. Like, that doesn't happen. You either lose them or you pass away. But in this moment, I told him, we also didn't lose anybody.
Yeah.
So I was like, without us, this place is just a pile of bricks.
That's true.
You know? And so I think that's the most important part about all of it. Nobody got hurt, you know?
Big thumbs.
And yeah, for sure. But yeah, definitely a tough time. I mean, we absorbed a lot of people at Charter Oak at that point.
Yes.
And it was just a very, you know, we were COVID.
Well, of course, like in my position, and this is like the real shit, right? Like I was like, of course this is happening right now. Like, why wouldn't like my best customer of all time, in like our most struggling period with food service, we had a distributor that basically went away, you know, during that period of time. We did over almost $200,000 with one distributor at the end of 2019. And by June, we were doing nothing with them. Our business has completely changed since then.
Yeah.
Entirely. New customers, more diversified, different.
Are you guys selling more retail, would you say?
No, just more customers, more distributors, more spread out. I'm also focused on selling like semen, embryos, bulls, more than I was then.
Okay.
And we were kind of getting all of our eggs in one basket, so to speak. And this is like, and all of the logic was pointing towards it, like move that way, right? Efficiencies, all these things. And then boom, the most unthinkable thing happens. And then the idea of going that way becomes an idiotic thing,
right?
Like it's so much better to have a bunch of different outlets instead of one. I'm not talking about the Meadowood at this point, but the distributor that we were working with. And yeah, I think that we're better for it, but it was really hard.
Definitely hard.
Yeah, it was hard.
I think the businesses that came out of COVID are, like you said, stronger for it.
Yeah.
You know, you figured it out in a time when a lot of people didn't.
Right.
And so I think
our e-commerce became really strong.
There you go.
Yeah. So we have an e-commerce business, and we have for years. And to be honest, it's come back to earth. Like it was like through the roof, like in April, March, you know, May. It was like, wow, there was like so many hits, and people were really going for it. And now it's shifted back more to food service again. So yeah, we've been working with like the Smith in Chicago. You guys toured there after the fire.
Amazing restaurant.
I think that maybe even how we like got to know them, to be honest, is Jacqueline like introduced us to Luke.
Jacqueline Dasha, shout out to her. Jacqueline. She lives in San Francisco now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. She's over there personal chefing.
That's cool.
Yeah. We got to all go out and get a beer.
I would love
She actually called me the other day. She's like, yeah, let's get a beer. I'm like, yeah.
Let's do it.
Charlie's out here. Yeah, we got
Charlie, yeah.
We got a lot of alumni out here. Carl was actually out here a little bit ago. Yeah.
Oh, he was?
Yeah. He was he's working for Wild Type.
Amazing.
Their lab growing fish, salmon.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Do you look into that? Is that in your world? Because I know now they're trying to like lab grow beef and things like that.
No, they're lab growing beef already.
Are they looking to buy your genes, your meat to clone, or would you sell it? That's another outlet.
No, I think that they buy a steak, like a Japanese Wagyu steak,
right.
And they study it and then like re-engineer it or whatever. I think that we're in a situation. Of course, we're like keeping our eye on it and we're interested in what happens in the space, but I think that we're really in a spot where we're ready for people who want real stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, if that happens, if it actually emerges and becomes something that's real, which it might, I mean, I think most people would probably predict that it'll become viable and like not so expensive that it's not possible.
Yeah.
Because right now it's still like so expensive to create like a steak.
Definitely.
So when that day comes, which it might, maybe not that long from now, that'll be fine. But we'll be producing something that's really special and is real.
Yeah.
And comes from the earth and has a story, and all the reasons why Meadowood worked with us back in the day are the same reasons why there's restaurants working with us today and why there will be in, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And I even feel more strongly now than I ever have been about our point of difference and like what we're doing. And I think it's really unique, and I'm proud of it. So we've improved a lot, even from the days when you worked with us. So
Yeah.
I'd love for you to come with me sometime, and
I would
you walk
love
through
to,
the chiller
Chef.
and
Hell
see
yeah.
us. You take the carcass pictures.
Yeah.
And we could do the whole thing. Ranch, go out to the ranch, go to the processor, see I put a hard hat and a beard and that on. Good to
Love that. Now the how you're growing these cows, like what's the process?
Well, that's what's unique, I guess, about what we're doing, because the ranch is in New Mexico at elevation. So it's like 6,500 feet. And so the mama cows and bulls are all on the ranch in New Mexico. And so they calve out there, and then the mom raises the calf like the first 5-6 months. And then you wean the calf off the cow, because they dry up naturally too, because they're going to have another calf in like, about 5 months. So they have kind of a dry period.
Right.
And then that calf will get on, put on like a high protein roughage diet, kind of like a Japanese kind of balanced ration. And then from that point, we'll move the calves to Western Iowa or to North Texas. We have 2 different feeding operations that have special like barns where the cattle are like able to go outside, but also have like a monoslope roof. So it keeps them out of the sun, out of the rain, out of the snow. Because as you can imagine, like in Iowa, it's pretty inclement winters.
Definitely.
And so that's really unique, because almost all cattle in the U.S. are like fed entirely outdoors. And so to have that coverage is like really special and helps them be like healthier and less stressed over time, because we feed them for like a lot longer than most cattle get fed.
Yeah.
So it's like a 500 to 600 day feeding process. Very similar to Japan again. So we're basically like emulating the Japanese system, but with like some Western tweaks and with our own terroir, which impacts the flavor of the beef as you experienced. Probably a little bit more like American kind of richness compared to like how like quiet like A5 can be, where it's almost like, not like water, but like it's so clean that you're not really picking up the beef notes all the time. And so I think our beef has got like it comes from like the rearing process and like being out to the range, all that stuff like influences it. But then like it's overlaid with like the Japanese style.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like maybe like a steak that someone who like loves beef would really love. And then like someone who loves like A5 would really love too. It's kind of like a combination.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fucking Wagyu.
And then we use what they call an MIJ camera. So it's like a meat imaging software. It's like with a Pixel phone, and it has like a beak and like a light source. And we scan every ribeye at the cross section. We were doing this when we were working with you guys too. Yeah. And then we take that data and we put it up into the system that goes into like this program called Breed Plan. And it like informs our decisions around breeding. It informs our decisions around performance, around different bloodlines, and it informs our decision around what we send to you, right? Because we know exactly what we have in the box based on the camera, not just our own eye.
Right.
The camera has an empirical measurement of the intermuscular fat, the fineness, the size of the ribeye, all of the parameters. So it's technology, man.
Hell yeah,
you know
baby.
about that.
Do you are you is this a myth? This might be a myth. Is there actually massaging going on?
No massaging.
Okay.
No, not at our place. It happens in Japan. In Japan, you've got like very different operations. So you have some that are like tiny with like 10 cows, right? Or 20 cows. And you have other ones with like 2,000. So it kind of spans the whole spectrum. And I think that, the wives' tale, so to speak, comes from some of these places that are really small. And I think going back, feeding them beer, like that's the thing. Yeah. The rice straw, like misting them with the sake. Music is a thing. They do play music at one of the feed yards we work with in the barn.
What do they play?
They play like classical music.
Yeah.
The cattle I think they like the classical music. No like Bon Jovi or anything like that.
No, Guns N' Roses.
Right, Guns N'
You should do an experiment and play Guns N' Roses at one of the farms. Yeah, that's going to be some stressed out cows.
They would not be happy.
You know what I mean? Yeah, definitely
bring
not.
the Chopin back.
But I don't know, man. You could do classical and then like Kenny G at the other place and see like if a certain type of music makes a better product.
That'd be interesting.
That's got to be a thing.
That would definitely be interesting to look at. Yeah, so it's there's a lot that goes into it. You know, I think the people. This is as a purveyor, right? By the way, we didn't talk about this, but I never worked in a restaurant.
Okay.
My whole life. I mean, growing up on the farm, and I would go back every summer when I was in college and work on the ranch and like cut hay, build fence, work the cows, do all the things. And as I grew older and older doing that, I got more and more interested in why my dad was doing things certain ways, like how we could do it better. So I was like, it was actually really great, like work experience, being on the ranch, irrigating, like all the things that go into like making food. Right. And it never happened for me that I would work in a restaurant. And now I've worked almost 18 years with restaurateurs, with chefs. And so now I've like been so connected to it. But I get frustrated sometimes because it's like our plight is like, it's real, right? It's hard to do what we do to get where we are. And I mean, you always appreciated so much. The whole family at the restaurant in Meadowood, like, was so appreciative. And there's so many of our customers are so like interested and like are really fanatic about what we do.
Yeah.
But I would like for the whole industry to like look back at like where we are sometimes and say, like, I understand how hard it is for people to make it work with labor and the cost of food and volume of customers coming into place, all the things that go into it. I understand that. But then to understand that like my prices haven't gone up really since I was working with you, Sucio, you know, it's like everything else has gone up. The boxes have gone up, the plastic's gone up, the processing's gone up, the shipping's gone up. And it's hard, you know, it's like, I think the producer gets squeezed sometimes a little bit. And so next time you're listening to your purveyor talk about how difficult it is to do it, it's true, you know, and I think that most chefs understand how hard it is because they're doing the same thing on the other end of the line, you know? Yeah. Trying to make it kind of farm their business in some way, you know? So
something's got to give at some point because
the customer's got to own the responsibility and at some point and recognize that a $14 sandwich is not like a restaurateur taking advantage of them. It's what it costs to put it out there.
We promise you.
I mean, it's a good sandwich. Like, appreciate it, tip your server, like, enjoy the food, and don't complain about how hard it is to. I mean, I get it. It's hard to afford some of this stuff. I understand that, but recognize the fact that like cheap food is not better necessarily, right? Like it takes resources to make something that's really special, and it can be simple, but I just think with the consumer's mentality sometimes it's just like I'm getting screwed, or this who they're making so much money on this or whatever, and it's just like this is not the case. Right. I don't know how we connect with consumers better as an industry for them to understand.
You just get lumped into the entire cattle industry. You know
what
I'm saying? They're just like, oh, fucking Lone Mountain Wagyu, Tyson, same thing. You know,
right.
There's no nuance to their research about it or anything.
Yeah, and I guess that restaurants sometimes get lumped into like big chain restaurants. And
straight up. Yeah. And you're like, why would I pay $300 for a menu when I can go to the Cheesecake Factory or whatever?
Right.
And no shame on the Cheesecake Factory. I love that shit.
Right.
But the food quality isn't there.
No, it's not.
It's just not.
Yeah.
You know? Because they have bottom lines to meet and things, you know, employees and business to run and things like that.
Yeah. And again, no shade.
Yeah.
But I actually did completely torch them. I took my kids to the Cheesecake Factory one time.
Yeah.
My son was like, I think it's pretty good. And I'm like, And we went there, we ordered the food. And I'm like, this is got a weird texture. It's not the right like avocado in the egg roll. Like, it's not working, man. And he was like, you know what, Dad, you're right. It's like, this is not the best.
No, it's not. It's not. I
You know
mean,
what
it's
the
for a
best-
time and a place.
Right.
I
No,
think
it's-
that's where you go out with the boys.
It's
You don't,
cool.
you don't bring the family out to Cheesecake Factory. You go with the boys.
Some people, it's like, that's what they think, like, that's the best meal out.
Yeah, I grew up eating Chili's, and I thought that was the best
Yeah.
growing up.
I grew up going to Dottie's Corner Kitchen and like having a burger, and
Yeah.
it was good. And I think back about those days and like, it was good. And,
Was there a time in your life, because you're working on this ranch, that you maybe shied away from fine dining because it was too fancy, or no, that you just took to it?
When I was a kid, we never went.
Right.
We'd go to like Red Robin in Reading.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't go to restaurants. Like, my mom kind of like brags about this. We never go out. And I remember, like going to Red Robin and getting like a burger and being like, hey, can I order like a soda? And she'd be like, yeah, you can. It's like $1.50. It's like, okay, you can get it. But it wasn't like automatically you're going to get it. You have to like ask.
Yeah.
And so it was like always like it was always like exciting to go out, or like go to Carl's Jr. and get like a Western burger. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I never, because that's like not like home food.
Yeah.
That's like going out food. So for me, it was like when I went to Japan, when I went to Italy, it really opened my mind. But when I went to Japan, my mind was fully blown. My first meals eating there, I was like, because I went to Chico State.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have Japanese food. Like, I learned a little bit about it, and I had some like noodles before I left. That was it. I made
some noodles.
Yeah, I had some like foreign exchange students that I became friends with, and like they made some udon for me, and I was like, okay, I'm initiated now. And then I went over there, and one of my first experiences there was with like my supervisor, who didn't speak English at all, and I spoke really broken Japanese. She took me to a yakiniku restaurant. We're grilling our meats, and she's like basically yelling at me, like, Reid, you need to cook that more, but like in Japanese. I wasn't understanding, and I was like eating undercooked like pork intestine at the yakiniku place.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to my friend later in the day who was like fully initiated, like half Japanese, and like spoke perfect Japanese.
Yeah.
He had a different role. He was like a community leader, kind of international relations position.
Right.
And he's like, Reid, that was pork intestine, and you were just eating it like medium rare the entire time. I had no clue.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, so I learned about everything over there, so it's like, it's really, I had my mom and my family, like, love them. They gave me my passion for food, my like attention to detail, my obsession with it. But it was travel and my experiences that brought me to like I love to go to like Rintaro in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like my favorite place to go. It's to go to Rintaro, 14th and Folsom, and just, geek out and like have whatever they're cooking that day. So and that's how my friends are. I'm like in a very kind of food and wine centric group of people. A lot of people from the Bay Area.
San Francisco is like that. So you're living in San Francisco now.
I have the entire time.
The entire time. So how did you secure that with Lone Mountain Wagyu?
Because they hired me, and I was a San Francisco employee, and I was going to be a sales guy.
Right.
That's what I was.
Okay.
They hired me to run sales, so it didn't really matter if I was there, because their office was down in Brentwood, down in LA.
Okay.
And so I went down to LA, and I met with them, and they hired me knowing that I lived in San Francisco, and they're like, that's cool. So I've been in San Francisco the entire time.
Got it.
And so I kind of migrated my position from being entirely sales to being an operations person.
Yeah.
And also, I should mention this because I haven't yet, but I work for Bob Estrin, and he's the founder of Lone Mountain, and he's kind of in the last, year sort of like relinquished some of the leadership to me. And so that's been an exciting part of the process too. And
yeah.
So yeah, my days are spent like on the phone, on Google Hangouts. And like this morning, I spent 2 hours talking with the ranch manager, about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to like move the cattle to like this high country ranch this summer to do like summer grazing before we bring them back down to the ranch. So that's like the first time we're doing that in a very long time, which is pretty exciting. So
what's the transporting like? Because I know those cows are a little bit bigger than normal.
Yeah, they have big cattle trucks, and so it's going to take like 4 trucks to load up all the cows and calves that are going to go up there. and they're not our trucks. They're like trucks that we hire out.
Oh, you rent them out?
Yeah, but it's not that far. I think it's something like, it's going to be like 5 hours to drive up there, which is like not that big a deal actually, but.
Got you. What's the fee for something like that?
That's going to cost about $2,500, I think, to get them up there. It's like $500 per truck, something like that.
That's it?
That's it.
For that many cows?
Yeah, well, that's not that many cows. That's probably a couple hundred cows.
Right.
Yeah, so it's going to be like 4 loads, like 50 cows or 40 cows each.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's actually not that. I was kind of surprised. He told me that this morning. I thought it was going to be like 15,000 total.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like a little bit less than 10 probably to get him up there and back.
Right.
See, because down there, have you been to New Mexico before?
I've driven through. I've been to Albuquerque and what's that weird place? Roswell.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're near Albuquerque.
Roswell. Yeah.
We're kind of near Albuquerque, sort of between Albuquerque and Santa Fe.
What's up with Albuquerque, man? Their food scene, like, I feel like it's like clawing.
Yeah.
It's getting there. They need like a big chef to come over there.
Well,
like,
there actually is a good friend of ours who like works with us actually down there in Cerrillos. And his name's Javier Montano. He's got a restaurant called 4505.
Javier Montano.
And he used to work up here.
Right.
Yeah, like Fog City back in the day. And his wife is from here, but he's from the Q, as they call it down there. And so he went home with his Bay Area pride after living here for like 20 years because, you know, it's not only because it's expensive here, but to get back to the Q. And he chefed at a few different places. They have like a food truck. There's a lot of food trucks.
There's a lot of food trucks.
A lot of food trucks. But he's doing like a brick and mortar place there now. And they just did like a Wagyu and whiskey meal. It's getting more upscale. It's like there's some tech stuff coming in with like Facebook and, it's just the kind of place that's just like kind of West Texas-y a little bit.
Right.
And, guarantee you this, one of the least expensive places to get a gallon of gas in the whole country is in Albuquerque.
Really?
Yeah, the highway that goes through, I guess it's the 10. Is that right?
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It is a big...
Is it the 10?
No, it's not the 10. It's the 40, I guess.
Yeah.
It's the truck stop town.
Right.
40 and the 25. And so it's just like Americana, neon, kind of rough hotels, truckers, bikers, lowriders, cruising on Sundays, and then of course the chile and the New Mexican food, which is like I salivate for. I just love it so much.
Really?
Oh my god, yeah, it's amazing.
What is the major like nuance with it?
It's hot,
right?
Spicy. They use the Hatch chili. It kind of reminds me of like somewhat of like the kind of merge of like Native American and Mexican food that I grew up with.
Okay.
Because I grew up in a community with a lot of Native American people. And so like at the fair that I talked about earlier, there would be the Karuk tribe would have a booth. It was called like the Indian taco booth. It was like basically fry bread with like a bunch of meat and lettuce, sour cream, like sauce, salsa. And that was like the Indian taco. And we'd always get it. And I always thought, I have no place with that, right? It doesn't make sense to me other than at the fair and with the Karuks. Well, that's like a thing in New Mexico, like a sopapilla, basically. So it's like the fry bread, right? And that's what you have almost everywhere there. And I guess it comes from like north central Mexico, and they have honey on the table for it. And but I just love the chili, and it's just like elbows on the table, just like grubbing food, man. It's just like no pretension, big iced tea.
Yeah.
You know, I get mine not sweet because I'm from the West Coast.
Sweet tea is too sweet, man.
Well, I know you're from the East Coast, so like I guess we both are the same that way, right? That's not
there's no and East Coast
unless you're the Carolinas or
I don't even think we had like much of a tea culture, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, in a hot summer day, maybe a cup of like a glass of like
I remember sun tea.
We had that growing up.
There you go. Sun tea was pretty dope. But I don't know, man. Connecticut, drinking Capri Suns and shit. Summer, like there wasn't like
squirts.
Exactly. Yeah, there was not a lot of emphasis on cuisine or any of that. It's very one-sided over there.
I need to be careful because, you know, I'm sure that and Javier and the whole New Mexico culinary scene is going to be listening to this probably at some point.
Definitely.
I hope. Well, not all of them, but
they will.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of casual you know, and I've talked about this with him too. It's like, it's a pretty casual place, right? So like people like casual restaurants there. So it's like the really kind of fancy places sometimes get like stigma almost. And it's kind of like for the outsiders, because it's very much like, especially in Santa Fe, like a culture of people who are from there or who are like the working people. And then the people who come from New York and California and Texas and are like seasonal. Because it's like, kind of has like sort of like resort town vibes a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, think about Texas. It's like so hot in the summer. And so they go to Santa Fe and it's like beautiful, high 70s, low 80s.
Right.
Escape Dallas, escape Austin, escape Houston. And then the art scene there is like really been vibrant for a long time. So it's always drew creatives from like New York, California, a lot of design.
That
like
desert
beautiful.
air.
It's really
That
special.
shit makes you creative. I don't know what it is. I spent some time in Palm Springs, and I'm like, there's something about deserts.
Elevation too.
Yeah, elevation. Yeah, I was in Cody, Wyoming.
Wow,
and that's like pretty high up there. I think it was something like 7,000 or something.
That's high.
Yeah.
Yeah, Santa Fe is the highest state capital. It's over 7,000 feet, the elevation there.
Got it. Is it a gradual climb, or is it like?
Yeah, it feels gradual.
Santa Fe.
Yeah, no, it feels pretty gradual.
Okay, got
You're
it.
kind of like, I didn't even know I climbed that much. But you're also starting off high because like Albuquerque's like lower, but you kind of like, you don't really notice it that much.
Right. It's like, because like Arizona's like that.
Yeah.
I went up and visited a reservation, Chef Nephi Craig, Apache Nation, and then I had to like come down.
Yeah.
Like directly down. I'm like, damn.
It was like straight down.
I mean, it's just like windy down, but you noticed, you know, and it's like Puerto Rico, like there's no gradual mountains. It's just like, oh, we're going up a mountain.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it's more gradual.
But you're out there in the Midwest, there's like, you know, it's flat.
Oh yeah.
Right? So
Midwest
you don't really cool, man. So how often do you visit the ranches?
It really depends. I'm trying to figure out a time to get out there right now.
Right.
And I guess that, you know, we can like do so much more with technology, you know, being able to stay connected.
Yeah.
So I don't have to be there all the time. I also have like a really great team.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a situation now where it's like, you know, when you have like a really great back of house, you don't need me walking around you, like being like, do this, do that.
No,
you don't
definitely
need that.
no.
Yeah. So when I go, it's like, bring me up to speed, what's happening, and we collaborate a lot. But it's not like there's been times where I had to be there more in an instructive kind of way, you know, but now it's like I've got such a good team that like I can focus on, you know, doing the best I can for the brand. So I'll be traveling like to Fort Worth in May for a big cattle sale. So I have to do stuff like that more than going back to the ranch necessarily to do operational, you know, fixing or anything like that.
And what are you buying there? More heifers?
So we're selling.
Yeah,
we're selling some females, heifers, selling bulls, selling embryos, selling semen.
Are you buying embryos and
sometimes? Yeah.
What makes that happen?
We don't really need to buy a lot because we have like a battery of cows that we can collect embryos from. But sometimes it's good if the value's right to pick up some from someone. And there's also other really great breeders in the country. So like we'll buy some embryos or a heifer here and there. But a lot of people are at these sales trying to buy up because they don't have cattle, right? They've got maybe a handful of animals. So for them, it's like they need to buy in order to like kind of gain market, right? But we already have a lot of cows, so we can like kind of grow within. Yeah. So we're more likely to buy semen, to be honest.
Got it.
Because we can bring in some like high dollar semen from like Australia, for example. I've gone to Australia for the Wagyu business.
Is that where the best semen is? Australia.
Arguably, like outside of Japan, the most highly touted, most expensive semen has come from Australia breeders.
Do you buy it by the pound or what?
You buy it by the pipette.
The nut?
Like literally a
tiny bit.
Tiny bit.
And what does that cost?
It can cost like up to like $70,000 for 1 year.
What?
Yeah.
How do you test it? Like, how do you know?
It's been
vetted,
like,
guaranteed.
Yes, it's been vetted.
They show you like these are the kids.
So density, motility, all the things that you would expect with like the grade semen, basically.
Right.
And so it's more like a pass or fail situation. So they're collected at facilities that are accredited. And so the semen will have passed the test. And so they know it's of quality. And most producers, if it doesn't work for the guy, then they would give him like another straw or help him out.
Right. And so is the feed basically all that it takes to have great semen in your cow?
No, there's a lot to it. But the age of the bull matters. So like you can collect them pretty young, like at 12, 14 months, but there's kind of like a middle kind of, like 2 years, 18 months, but the quality can be very good for the entirety of the bull's life. So, I mean, we don't do semen collection at the ranch. We have we use a vendor. So we ship the bulls to this place in Colorado called Rocky Mountain Sire Services, and they do all of that. So it's like a very specialized field, kind of like any kind of veterinary.
How many bulls do you have?
Right now, we probably have like about 60 bulls, and we only need a handful because we use artificial insemination to breed most of the cows.
Right.
And so the bulls we use like as cover bulls. So they'll breed the cows that don't get bred in the AI or the artificial insemination. Not the AI.
I'm like, bro, you're getting crazy.
Yeah.
Picture out there with VR glasses.
Yeah. No, it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's really, and not to make this political.
Yeah.
We can get political if you want.
Let's go.
But like all these conversations about IVF and it really hits different for me because like we're doing IVF work all the time,
right,
with the cattle, and I'm like, are these people going to come after us for doing IVF work with like?
So are people coming after people for doing IVF?
Not. No, because they're property or something. That's what someone explained it to me. But I'm like, so it's okay for us to do IVF work with cows, but we're going to tell like women that they can't.
Is that really a thing? They're trying to take IVF from women?
They've been taking it away.
What?
Yeah. Because of like the discarding of embryos.
Ah.
Because like when you do IVF work, right, you produce a bunch of embryos.
Right.
So you take the oocytes, which are the eggs, and then you in vitro, like in a dish, fertilize them with semen. So you can take that one pipette of like $70,000 semen and you can inseminate 60, 70 oocytes, eggs, right? And then you put them in a culture and only some of them grow into a viable embryo that you can implant into a surrogate or a recip. And the other ones don't make a viable embryo. They get tossed.
Right.
Like, whatever.
Right.
We're talking about cow eggs right now.
Right.
It's like, there's no
worries.
There's no like, what's the word? There's no issue with discarding eggs from a cow or semen. I mean, shoot, a bull's got enough semen. He's making more semen all the time.
Right.
So it's like you can be a little wasteful with semen. And it's not that big. You don't need to be heartbroken about it.
Chef, I followed that my whole life.
This is, something that is part of the science. And there's been, I think in like Alabama and some other states, there's been like people who are trying to like war on women using in vitro or people using in vitro to help with pregnancies because it's really difficult for some people to get pregnant, and in vitro is like one of the only pathways to it.
Right.
And
if anything, I'd say one of the most successful things.
It's like, and again, this is not something that's like rocket science. It's not something that's like AI, like real AI. This is kind of old. Some of this technology. It's not like the IVF for the cattle is newer. Like we used to do conventional embryo.
So you took it from.
So what we would do before is we would basically have a cow super ovulate, lots of eggs,
super ovulate,
and then you would AI her with like 2 straws of the semen, and then once the embryos were developed in the cow, you would flush the embryos out and then implant those embryos into other cows, recip cows, or what you would call surrogates. Now with the IVF, you flush the eggs out and then in vitro fertilize them. So you're not fertilizing them in utero. See, we're getting scientific on the Sucio.
Fuck, dude. Yeah, this is going to blow minds out there, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that wants to do what you do, man.
Yeah, so
this is the way to do it.
The in vitro has really made, so the utilization of that one straw of $70,000 semen can now produce 60 offspring. one straw of semen that costs $70. Before, you would have to put 2 of those straws in one cow to maybe make 8, 10 offspring. So you can see how that's just changed the game.
For sure.
Yeah. Science, man. Again, science comes back to technology.
Right.
It comes back to, you have to like think about the next step. You can't be back. You can't be back where you were before. You got to be moving forward.
So do you contract these scientists to like figure this shit out for you?
Yeah. I mean, we have to do like, we figure out like the matings, that's the artistic part. Right. But and by the way, the matings are also driven a lot by genomics. So we send our DNA off to a lab and the DNA gets submitted into a database with all these other animals from the same breed. And then we can see how our animal competes against the breed based on genomics, based on markers.
What are the markers?
Like
specific
marbling, like size. So there's all these, like the genome of the animal will tell you their propensity to pass along these qualities that you're looking for. And so we're like making decisions on breeding animals when they're like 5, 6, 7, 8 months old. And we have this like heifer in the sale coming up in Fort Worth that is super, like really super, like top 1% in all these different traits. And so she should bring like $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 at auction. And we're also selling a bull that's like probably one of the best bulls that we've ever produced in terms of his pedigree, the parentage, and then also his genomic possibility, like his genomic and outcomes are really incredible. So again, we hope he brings, we've sold a bull for $160,000 at auction before.
Is it a bid?
It's a bidding situation. Yeah.
So you're like 140,
Yes.
Got it.
There's an auctioneer.
Up to 160.
160,000. Yeah. I was completely out of my mind. I had no idea what was going to happen.
I bet, what an adrenaline rush.
It was crazy. I was like, I couldn't even look around. I was like looking down. I'm like, that's my bull. He's in the auction ring and got to 100 and 110. And meanwhile, most of them sell for like $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. So it was like, whoa. But it hasn't happened since because this was like 2 years ago.
So you're breaking records out here.
We broke a record for us. It wasn't actually it got broke domestically by another bull that sold for like $325,000.
What?
Don't worry. There's Angus bulls that are about like $1 million.
Really?
Yeah. It's like thoroughbreds almost.
Can you buy from Japan and bring that over?
No.
They won't do it.
So the Japanese, they ship the live cattle over here like in the 70s, in the 80s, and then like I think the last shipment was something like in the late 90s.
Why'd they stop?
Because they were like, this is a national treasure. They labeled it a national treasure, and it was never allowed to like export any more genetic material outside the country. So you can't get any semen, embryos, live cattle from Japan anymore.
Is there a black market that maybe they're like...
we don't participate and we don't know of it, because if we did, people are like, where did that one come from?
Right.
Can you imagine?
Right.
Like, how'd you get that? We're like, I fell off a boat in China.
They're gonna tell.
We know a guy in Hong Kong.
Right.
But yeah, I think in like East Asia, there might be some more like illicit things happening with potentially. So yeah, there's some dirt. There's definitely some dirt out there.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Is there kind of posers in the industry selling Wagyu that's not?
Well, that's the thing. Like most Wagyu breeding stock is DNA verified.
Okay.
So you can't
you can't lie.
No. You get found out pretty quick if it was counterfeit because the parentage would come back on the calves and the guy would be like, what the hell, man? This is like half Angus. Would you sell me? So tainted goods.
Who would you say is your kind of direct and biggest competition?
I mean, I guess in the breeding world, we kind of think of it being more like a community.
Right.
So it's kind of like chefs and restaurants a little bit, because we think there's a lot of room out there for the breed to grow. Right now, it's still like, not even 5% of like the U.S. beef market is influenced by Wagyu. So, I mean, imagine when we get out there more and people see the results.
And you will.
And we will. That's the inevitability of it, right? And not that it's like the perfect species for every application. There's applications for other breeds. But it's something that we think together we're stronger probably. So, I guess, some close friends in the industry, we can shout out like Wilders in Turkey, North Carolina, Booth Creek in Kansas, TBR in Texas, M6 in Texas is really,
I mean, they're always doing
massive.
it. They're always doing it.
And then the beef companies, we got Snake River Farms, they do a great job. Snake River Farms is different from like Lone Mountain because their cattle are sometimes high percentage, sometimes F1, which is like a first cross of like Angus and Wagyu. So they have a much larger range of product. It's a much bigger company than we are, but really good company. Mishima, Imperial, you may have heard of. We work with Imperial a lot because we supply bulls. We will supply bulls to like a producer like that, which is a really big producer. And so there's like, and they're, and they sell beef in like Costco. And it's like not like a big announcement. You can go into the Costco in San Francisco and find it. So it's not like people don't know that, but it's, it's a big production. And so we're involved in that in the breeding side. But when it comes to the supply of the beef, very boutique, very small, all full blood. And very kind of special. We work with like Wild Air in New York City. Do you meet those guys?
Yeah, for sure.
Jeremiah and Fabian.
They've done 12 days.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We've worked with them for so long. I remember calling Chef Jeremiah, when the world shut down in 2020.
Yeah, I'm being like,
and I was like, hey, you guys need strips this week? And he's like, I don't think the restaurant's going to be open this weekend. Because I'm in San Francisco and I'm like, it's still chill. It was not chill because in New York they shut down.
Yeah, New York was harsh.
Yeah. So I was like, damn, you're going to close? He's like, well, we don't mean to close, but like they're going to close us.
Kind of have to, yeah.
It's like, whoa,
yeah.
I didn't know that. And they're still there. They're still cranking it out. And
yeah, they still are. I think they closed their Wild Air space.
Wild Air's open because we're shipping them.
What they
closed Contra.
Contra, there we go.
They're going to reopen, I think, very soon, actually, as a place called Bar Contra. And I think it's not going to be a tasting menu necessarily, but
it's going to be fun.
It's going to be more like fun, I think.
Yeah,
for
sure.
Like really delicious food.
I think they deserve it. At this point, I'm like, you guys did it already. Yeah, you don't have to,
Yeah, that's really cool. And then another place we're working with is Asador Bastian. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah,
Chicago.
I have.
Yeah,
Holy shit,
Doug Saltis.
That's like they know it as one of the best restaurants in Chicago.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's only. I think it's a little over a year old now, and they're doing like a Basque style steakhouse, and so they take the Lone Mountain, and we specially produce like a bone-in strip for them.
Yeah,
and then they serve the chuletone in house.
Do they only get your beef, or do they have different?
No, they get like beef. They actually get beef from here. They get beef from Flannery.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
okay.
They get beef from Flannery. They get some like Galician beef from, I think that comes either from Spain, or they also get some from Australia. They get they have different purveyors. So it's kind of like the wine world a little bit, right? Where you could enjoy beef from different parts, different styles, different breeds. I would definitely suggest you go check it out.
I would. I'm going, Chef.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I'm going when I get nominated for this James Beard Award.
Oh,
God damn it!
Oh, we should haul together.
I submitted for that. I'm just saying, let's go.
I've been out there during that before.
Does Lone Mountain Wagyu want to be an official sponsor of Sucio Talk?
I think we can
make that happen.
We can make that happen.
Let's go, baby. I'm ready to take this international.
Just be like a Wagyu fueled sponsorship.
A Wagyu fueled sponsorship, baby. Just let's go.
Or maybe we can use some of our mileage points to get you where you need to go.
I would love that, Chef.
We could do that.
That's what I need, because I need to figure out a way to be in many places in 1 week. I'm talking like, here for the week at OpenAI, right? Yeah. And then after that, I'll see you in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And then I'm going to Austin, and then I'm coming back. And then the next week I'm going to Colorado, and then I'm going here. Talk to chefs, and then unite.
That's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think there's a big opportunity to make a huge community around these podcasts, and there's a lot of them. There's Chefs PSA. There's a shit ton of them.
Right.
This is the best one. I don't give a fuck.
I love it.
Hey,
I love the one that you did with the chef from Auberge down in Big Sur.
Yeah. He's a dope ass guy, Justin Coakley.
What an amazing story.
Yeah, he really is really cool. I mean, it's just like I never I know you, but I didn't know you grew up on a dairy farm.
Yeah,
like,
I grew up in the business.
It's crazy. Like, you've been doing this for your whole life, you know, and then he comes from a background of like, I used to be an ice skater for Disney.
I was
wild. You're like, what?
I was way into it.
Yeah.
I didn't miss a point.
I mean,
like,
that's so, it's such a wild thing.
All over Asia doing it.
Yeah. And he straight up wouldn't tell me what character he used to play. Yeah. But it's funny because I interviewed Tim Farron of Bernal Cutlery, and he refused to give some information because Disney NDAs are serious.
Oh, wow.
If you leave that company and they make you sign, like, people are like, no, I'm good. Don't talk about that. Yeah. I'm like, damn, like, people are afraid.
Yeah. Don't talk about Bruno.
About the mouse, he said. Yeah. Don't talk about the mouse, baby.
Yeah.
He'll come after you.
Wow.
It's crazy.
I took my kids to Disney World over the holidays. Yeah. To go to for New Year's Eve. Shout out to Charlie and June. Way past your bedtime. And we had the most amazing time. And I'm just like, I'm completely aghast at like how they get it done. Yeah. The coordination.
It's a whole thing, man.
It's amazing. It's crazy.
I mean, they got a city under that city.
It's wild.
You know, just like working parts. I mean, he was telling me that there's not more than one mascot on the, so if there's a Mickey Mouse, there's no other Mickey Mouse anywhere in the park. So that is the one Mickey Mouse. Yeah. And so it's just a crazy way to think about an environment, a society. Like they do it every day. Like every day is fireworks at that castle.
Right.
You know, and you think about that.
Multiple times a day.
Exactly. And so that's kind of like being at a restaurant.
It's like, or you know what? It's like having a dairy. Yeah. Because when I was growing up, we had this milker, Jeannie Bogue, and she ran a restaurant like on the coast. Yeah. And then she had one up there. And she said a dairy is a lot like a restaurant because the calves, they have to get fed every day. Mm-hmm. Just like the people at the restaurant. Yeah. They got to get fed every day. Doesn't matter if it's Christmas or, so that part really connected with me when I started working in the industry. Because I'm like, these people are like living my dad's life, like they have to like, my dad worked every Thanksgiving, every Christmas. Right. Because he would give, those are the days he would give off his employees, right? He would say, go spend time with your family. Easter, he would work. And it wasn't like every holiday that he would work and they wouldn't because they would do work shifts on holidays. Right. But on those holidays, he would work. He would milk. Right. And that's how a restaurant is, right? A restaurant, they operate a lot of times, just like a farm does.
When you milk the cows, what's the direct...
Twice a day.
What's the direct next step after you milk the cow? Like, where does that milk go?
So you put the machine on, comes into the pipe, right? There's a vacuum, it's running into the whole thing, goes into the pipe down, and then it goes up and over and into the tank, basically. It goes through a chilling process first, like where it zags through all the pipes, in the refrigeration unit, through the coils, and then it'll go through like a cheesecloth, like filter, basically. And then into the tank.
Are you filtering all the fat out?
No. The fat goes in. The fat is what they get paid for. They get paid for solids. So protein and fat are what you get paid on, really. So all of the milk goes in, but the filter will filter out anything like,
hair and shit.
Like things that you don't want in the milk.
Right.
And so once it goes to the filter into the tank, then there's an agitator. So the cream doesn't rise to the top. It keeps it consistent. Right. And then like the next day, the truck will come by and pick it up. It'll get pumped out. Yeah. Or sometimes you can just leave it there for a couple days in the agitator. It's cool, like in the high 30s. Right. Yeah. So we used to drink milk out of the tank. Raw milk. Yeah. No pasteurizer. Yeah.
And so what's that difference?
It tastes like entirely different. Right. Because, the pasteurization is you cook the milk, high heat, right? So like flash pasteurization was the thing that became popularized by like Ottawa and then obviously like some people died because of E. coli and stuff like that. So then you got into like the super pasteurized, which is what you see now more. We have like milk that you're like, damn, this milk's like fresh until July.
2 months.
It's like that doesn't seem right. And then you put it in the fridge and you open it up and you use it and it's a good product like Clover. I love Clover's products, for example. Strauss. Right. Shout out to Strauss, really good farm.
So what do you think about the opinion of like people shouldn't drink milk, cow milk?
I mean, I think that everyone has a reason, right? Why they want to do something I think milk's great. In fact, my girlfriend, Jillian, she's from Westchester, actually, from Mount Vernon.
Okay.
Connecticut. So she's from right near the Bronx, and she's a little younger than me, and she got into like oat milk or almond milk. And I was like, honey, we should just have milk.
Yeah, big nut is ruining our life.
It's like, I say that. I have family who are like in the almond business, so I'm not like against almonds or anything like that, but it's like,
it's not sustainable.
just put some milk into the coffee and you're going to love it. And so we've been doing whole milk.
Mm-hmm.
Better whole milk is best. But any whole milk to me is better than the nut milk.
Yeah. So when going back to the tank and the milk, when they take that milk out into the truck, are you paid by weight?
So it's weight. Yeah. Cause we were producing and shipping to Oregon. So in California it was gallons, but in Oregon it was 100 weight. So you get paid on 100 weight. So every 100 pounds. And now they're getting paid on solids. So protein, fat. So the fluid milk, the volume doesn't matter. It's more about what's in it.
Got it.
Because of the byproducts they can make with it, like butter, ice cream, all that stuff.
So when you say 100
my parents
weight,
are organic, by the way, now too.
Really?
Yeah, it's organic.
What does that take?
It took that's a good question.
Yeah, what the hell does...
So I went to Petaluma and was cruising around. My dad was working with a cow broker.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, there's some cows down in Petaluma. I'd like you to go check them out. And so I went and checked them out. And I'm like, I think the ones over on like Lakeview are the ones to go with. And so what happened is the cow broker brokered a deal where my parents' cows, conventional cows, were sold. And they went to a conventional dairy.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, the organic cows arrived and they were milking. So like seamless, like the kitchen never shut down. Like they were milking cows one day that they were their cows. They shipped the cows and then they brought organic cows in because they couldn't milk the conventional cows and call it organic. So organic processes is part of it, but you need to have organic cows. Does that make sense?
Right.
So the cows have to be reared organically. So the calves from the non-organic cows that were raised on the organic farm, my parents' farm, it was first converted to be organic.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had to get organic animals. So the calves could be like grandfathered in and become organic on the organic farm, but the cows had to go. So they sold the cows to another dairy and they brought cows in from a different dairy that were already organic. So that's how it worked.
Is this a big process with the state to do this?
I think it's
with like application or
state. There's different, they have to be certified for their processing company they work with.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like USDA organic. So that's what they are too.
And
yeah, they have to deal with a lot of of red tape and monitoring. My mom, she like gets tired of all the paperwork. There's a lot of work
too.
They're just on a farm.
Do you think that there's farms out here in California who are considered conventional that practice organically?
Oh yeah. There's definitely farms that are considered to be conventional my parents' farm was conventional, but it wasn't operating like a lot of dairy farms you would be used to. But that was also like the region it came from, Intermountain. Our cows would like graze in the summertime. Right. Milk cows don't graze that much in California. I mean, sorry to break it to you, but like, they're like...
So California cows are not happier?
No, I'm not saying that there is a bad situation. I'm just saying that there's a lot of cows that are raised in like feedlot operations, milk cows. And that's just the nature of the business. But then there's other farms like we know in Marin and Sonoma where they're based on seasonal grazing. And like where I'm from is also a place where you had seasonal grazing. So I would say there's a lot more dairies in those environments that might not be organic certified, but have organic principles. But you have to be organic certified. Otherwise you're not organic. Right. That's the rub.
Catch.
Yeah. Of course, we've never been pursuant of being organic at Lone Mountain. And I think our product is really cost prohibitive already. And so to take it to that level of the organic product, do you know Llano Seco?
Yeah. Rancho Llano Seco?
Yeah, Rancho Llano Seco. So they're not doing the pork anymore. Charlie, a great friend of mine. And, they went from being organic to doing like basically like a natural protocol. Yeah. Because the feedstuffs were just like killing them because the organic feed was like 3 times the conventional feed. Yeah. And they felt good about what they were sourcing conventionally. And so, as you know, the rubber meets the road at some point with this cost structure. And it's like you have to kind of choose your lane and your battles a little bit with this stuff.
Definitely.
You have to have a food that is whatever application it has will work for someone.
Mm-hmm.
So,
shit.
Yeah.
Cattle business is crazy.
Yeah, the cattle business is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's also like, it's a diminishing industry, which makes me kind of excited to be a part of it, because I just think that there's going to be a diminished supply in the future, and there's still going to be people who want to have steak.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think a lot of people, I can understand vegans or vegetarians or pescatarians or whatever, but like a lot of people want to have a steak sometimes. You know what I mean? So,
there's always going to be a need for you.
Not all the time.
You know?
I mean, people they ask my girlfriend Jillian all the time. They say, "Well, you must have Wagyu all the time." And she's like, "No, actually, not really.
Mm-hmm.
We don't eat steak every day. Roasted chicken sometimes.
Mm-hmm,
Sometimes we have a vegetarian meal. Like, we mix it in. I could eat it more.
Mm-hmm.
It's great food, but it's not. We don't eat it all the time. I mean, with this wine, nothing better.
Definitely, But I think some things are best reserved for fun times or whatever it is.
It's true.
Because then you cheapen it.
Yeah.
If you start doing it too much,
right?
And sort of what happens a lot here in the States. So I'm grateful you guys are operating like you do,
right?
Because it doesn't,
like when you have flowers all the time, you get used to it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's nice to get used to having flowers all the time.
Yeah.
But
you're always going to take it for granted.
It's nice to have a break sometimes, because you come back to, you're like, damn, that Sonoma fruit really comes through.
Right.
So this wine, I wanted to tell you about this wine, this Il Favo. It's from Aldo Coterno. It's Nebbiolo. And I was at Per Bacco the other day, and we had a great meal. And Per Bacco is kind of nostalgic for me because, they opened not long after I moved to San Francisco 15 years ago. And that wine is a little bit like me. It's like old world, but it has a little bit more of like, I don't know, it's a little bit more approachable.
Okay.
So it's not completely like in the past century in Italy. It's got it's meant to be drank now, and it's a fun wine. But I just had such a great time with Umberto and the whole team there the other day. And we had this bottle of wine there, and it reminded me of a time in San Francisco when I was younger. And when Per Bacco was out the door and meeting with Stuart Brioza at Rubicon.
Yeah.
Before
he was who he is today.
Yeah, before State Bird and The Progress, and they're all some of my favorite places. And so whenever I see him, I always think about the time when he cooked that grass-fed steak for me at Rubicon, which is now Wayfair Tavern. And I was like, holy shit, this guy's killing it right now.
Right.
This is how you cook a steak. He was badass. I was like, this is sweet. And then I was young, it was my 20s, and I was hanging out with these guys, and Michael Mina had just come on the scene, and Aqua was happening. I remember I went to Postrio's reunion party when Wolfgang came.
Yeah.
I was just I kind of came in at the end of an era, and then a new era started. And now we're kind of entering a new era again. And I hope Per Bacco is part of, the new era. They're still doing their business down there on California Street, and incredible Italian, regional food, Piemontese food, where I lived and studied in Italy. But I hope that the people who are visiting, the people who live there, recognize some of the jewels that we have, not just in the city, but in the Bay Area. And we support those places.
Mm-hmm. Damn right. Do you see Lone Mountain Wagyu growing?
I don't really think that we're going to scale
Right.
to some extent. I mean, I see us having maybe a handful more cows than we have now. Maybe doing more off ranch work with embryo transfer, for example.
Yeah.
Which takes a lot of resources. So I think it's going to be kind of a slow and steady. I mean, it's kind of like asking the restaurant in Meadowood, would it be scaled?
Mm-hmm.
The obvious answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
I guess people are always asking chefs, are you going to open another place? And of course he did, and he's opened more.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to a ranch, I think most people are how do I operate more effectively? How do I do better for my family? How do I do better for the business?
Yeah.
Not about getting super big necessarily, but I think the agriculture has really been very consolidated. and it's become very large. So again, I think as we move forward, it's a bit of a zag to be like more artisan and not to be focused on scale.
We're actually going to open this right now.
There you go. And there's no right answer there, I don't think. But I think for us, our geography dictates that we can't scale to the extent. We have 27,000 acres in New Mexico, which is, to give context, the size of Manhattan. Huge, right? But it doesn't produce the grass and feed necessary to feed much more than like 500 to 700 cows, probably 500 cows. This is a huge space, but you have to work with the environment, and you can't fight it, right? And so if you put too many animals, then you're gonna fight nature,
right?
So that doesn't work, especially in the high desert, because the ecosystems in the desert are much more fragile than they are in the low end.
Right. Yeah. They say, when I was in Palm Springs, they would say, like, you can stop on the side of the road, but don't walk into the land, because you can disrupt the ecological state of the sand and all the life that's living out there, just killing things.
That's sage advice.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Yeah. Yeah, baby. Ooh, that smells different. I like that.
I should pour for you first.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I don't want to do it away from the board. I was thinking...
We'll take the risk, chef. Ooh, nice color.
Talking about the cost of production with a lot of the American artisan agricultural products, which we love to support. And we love to support the wine too, right? Cheers. Salute.
Salute, Bobby. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just firm. It's one of their favorites down there. And I understand, that like the imports have a big advantage because of the currency situation right now. But, like it's like the Japanese Wagyu or the Australian Wagyu or the Italian wine or the Sonoma wine. Like, it's nice to celebrate the world, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And I think, just like you say, prices fluctuate, right? So, the yen going down, time for you to travel.
Right.
It'll fluctuate again, and something else will pop up out of it.
Honestly, I hope everyone goes. Go to Japan.
Yeah, definitely.
PSA.
I mean, that is like on my list.
Every American that is interested should go. It's an incredible experience, and you should support those people. They've had a heck of a time. They were way more shut down than we were, and that just murdered the hospitality industry.
Definitely.
It was tough. I know it was. And that's why you see so much Wagyu beef in the U.S. right now. There's a big surplus of Japanese beef.
They're selling it a little cheaper than
with the yen, it's low, so they're seeking the market. And by the way, we have like very close friends and business partners that we work with that are very involved in the Japanese Wagyu trade. And so no shade at all. I'm not like here to, say that they're like dumping. People will say like, they're dumping product in the U.S. or whatever. No. Absolutely not. Yeah. They're just trying to like make it work, man. Yeah. It's hard. It's like they got a lot of money involved in that stuff too. And it's like the farmer at the end of it, he has to get paid. And so I just think it's great when we can support, amazing people and amazing products, amazing chefs. And certainly Japan is a place that's way up the list in terms of that, just have it in spades.
Yeah.
And what a culture to experience too.
Definitely. I mean, it's so clean.
Yeah. When we went to Italy this fall, we spent some time in Barolo, which is near this wine's actually made right near there. And it was so cool because when I would live there, 21-year-old, I'd gone to some places, I'd gone to some nice restaurants, but mostly I just had pizza, and like cheap wine. Big jug wine, like effervescent, like dolcetto and stuff like that. And so when we went, it was like so cool to see the people that I learned about from K&L wine merchants or from the restaurants or from Kermit Lynch here in Berkeley, and to see them in their winery and to see like Giulia Negri, this producer in Barolo, and she's back there working the harvest with her staff. And it's like not this big rock thing that you might think it is. It's like, women and men like getting down dirty, like it's farming too.
Yeah.
So it's really great to have those travel experiences and realize that it's not what you expect sometimes. You say the word Barolo and you think expensive, high end. Doesn't have to be. Can be like really organic and rustic.
We're in a beautiful time in the world where a lot of like blue collar jobs and things that require a lot of hard work are seen as art.
Yeah.
Being a farmer, like you ask anybody if they wanted to be a farmer, and if you weren't born into it, nobody wanted to go out and seek it.
Right. Now people do.
Now you do.
Yeah.
And there's degrees, around it, and there's things that you can go out and do, and apprenticeships and all this stuff, and then different ways of schools of growing things.
Right.
And so it's really like restaurants now, where you go to different farms, you pick up a little there, and then you run your own.
Yeah, I think that some people would look at me and be like, what are you doing not going back to the family place? Like, that's such an opportunity.
Right.
Like, there's so many people who don't have the wherewithal or the ability to, like, work on a farm.
Right.
And that's all they want to do, really. And it's kind of sad in some ways. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So, obviously, you and I have been in this for a while now. Mm-hmm. We got some gray in our beard.
Definitely, yeah.
And my question to you is, how do we get people to get involved in the culinary business, the culinary industry, when we know how hard it is, right? And the work you have to put in. And I know that, you have put in so many hours and years into it. And I'm curious about the future, because I know that, like, during the pandemic, there was a lot of people who left the industry. I know that there's stats around it.
Yeah.
That people left.
Yeah.
And I do know there's a lot of people would be like, I wouldn't tell someone to do this. I want to know about, what your thoughts are on that, and like how we keep it exciting and viable.
That's a great question, and something that I ask myself a lot, because I do this show for the next generation, and everything ebbs and flows, and we saw a dip, because of what was happening in the world or whatever. There's got to be other times where it wasn't financially viable to, like, be in the hospitality industry, I think that was a big part of it. We're getting to a place now where it's becoming more financially viable to be in the industry, and not just 3 Michelin. I'm a sommelier. I make a lot of money, but, like, people at casual restaurants can now eat and have a life, I think the thing that I am weary of is that I worked 80 hours a week, like every week, no matter what, 6 days, 80 hours. And I'm not saying that was healthy, but it definitely got me to where I was, right? Because you don't get anywhere without a challenge, so then I asked myself, like, how does, if it was me during this day and age, and I was this, 18 years old getting into it, and then fast forward, I'm sitting here with you, but I had half of the hours worked that I do now. It's like, who would I be as a cook?
Well, you probably wouldn't be as good.
That's what I'm saying.
But you'd be maybe less tired.
But I have always had this saying, especially when I worked at Meadowood, like, fuck tired.
Right.
Like, you, like, we are dead for more time than we're alive.
Right.
We're asleep for half our life. There's a lot of times where you're not paying attention, whether you're watching dumb shit on TV or mindlessly scrolling on your phone.
Right.
And cooking and hospitality is one of those things that requires your full attention if you want to, like, do it well.
100%.
And there's very few things in this world that are like that, where hard work meets artistry, and you can actually, like, make a name for yourself and grow into whatever.
Yeah.
So
I guess art is one of the other things that's like that.
For sure. I think the thing that we have to focus on is we all got wrapped up on being, like, food stars.
Right.
And I think you got to focus on actually cooking and knowing how to cook and how to run a restaurant and lead a team and be a mentor before you go on that other stuff.
Right.
You know, I just had a conversation with a kid out of Florida. He's 20 years old. And it's like, what do I do? And one of his questions to me was like, how do I develop my style? And I was like, your first mistake is that's your question right now in your life.
Right.
Like
the basics.
Yeah. Like, why don't you just learn, you know, find a good chef, find a good mentor and give them your life for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And let them know that you're going to leave in 3 or 4 years. Cause that's another thing too. It gets very personal because you're in a weird space where it's like, it's almost like a parent kid relationship with that person. And I think sometimes if you're not careful, you as the student can put too much on your mentor, too much expectation of what they should be to you.
Right.
And so it's like, you also have to serve yourself. And I think that's what this generation has right. They're serving themselves. We didn't serve ourselves. We just served others and we served the client, the guest, and nothing else mattered. And while that discipline is very important, I think there is a lull right now. There's a lot of chefs like myself who are either working corporate for the paycheck or personal chefs because they don't want to deal with the stress.
Yeah.
And it's going to take an education of also who the diner is to know that like butter costs $5 a pound.
Right.
In your cacio pepe, you know, we used a quarter pound, if not more.
Right.
You're going to pay for that.
Right.
And you got to be okay with it. But then I asked myself, like, what does inflation mean and where do we go? Is minimum wage going to be just $50 in 20 years? You know, are we just going to keep
going?
This kind of, it's like kind of like a facade.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know it as much as other countries do because our dollar never loses value, really. Mm-hmm. You know, it's always the dollar to us, at least, right?
We're lucky in that.
Yeah. And we don't, that's why we're so averse to cryptocurrency because we don't understand something that loses and gains value.
Right.
You know,
Argentines understand.
Yeah. Or if you do the stock market or something like that, you understand that kind of thing.
Right.
But it's just a matter of education. And I think we're getting to a time where the education is now available and it's just going to take some time. I think in 10 years, we'll be at the promised land of what we want this industry to be.
Right.
And it's going to take that long. It's going to be hard. Restaurants are going to close. Yeah. So if I say to anybody, like, if you want to go to a spot, go today, tomorrow, go, because there's a big possibility that place might close.
Yeah.
How many places in San Francisco this year alone opened last year, big eater thing, like, hey man, we're open, we're here. And now 3 of them are closed.
It's brutal.
One right after the other.
It's really hard.
Yeah. It's terrible. And, you know, honestly, I got to say, like, again, with
Oakland too.
Yeah. With how long, you know, how the California labor laws work, like, this is not built for restaurants. You know, it's not built for it. And if I'm an employee of a restaurant and I personally want to get better at my job and I want to give it my all and I don't want to take a 30-minute break before my 5 hours of working so I don't get a fucking meal break penalty or whatever the fuck, it's like, I don't want to have to worry about that as an employee.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like nowadays the employees are worried about things as much as the managers are, like about what the rules are and what the hours we need to work is. And, you know, and I'm like, kind of like, fuck the rules.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know, if I didn't break the rules, I wouldn't have gotten to where I'm at today. Yeah. You know, like they tell you, oh, you got to hand in your resume. Fuck that. Show up.
Right.
Show up.
I was just thinking about that as you were talking because it's like, it reminds me of your origin story, you know, with the Meadowood and how you turned up and how you threw yourself into it and how Chef Costow like was like, do the work and he showed you the way in some ways, right? Like he was your mentor. And
for sure.
There was other mentors at the
Kat, John,
yeah,
Carl.
But what I was thinking about what I've been thinking about when it comes to like the industry, right, is I have a hard time with the hospitality education situation because I know it's so expensive and can be paralyzing.
Definitely.
And so I've worked with this group called Star Chefs. Have you heard of it before?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I should hook you up with them because
Definitely do.
I'm going to be down in LA in a few weeks. They're doing the Rising Stars in LA, and they always do an outreach with like culinary students or like local youth.
Yeah.
And they understand the importance of like the next generation and getting them involved. But I've been thinking a lot about it. And it's like, go to a community college, like do some work, and then get into a restaurant, right? And put your time in, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna know it all. You don't need to have a style.
No.
But I think about the Napa Valley, and I've gotten to travel a little bit, and I've seen like the trees, you know, from TFL and from Danielle and stuff, and it's like crazy. So, and those guys, a lot of the women and men that are coming from these programs are incredibly talented, but it's like a lot of work, you know what I mean? It's a lot of work, and it's like showing up and doing it every day. Like Tim Hollingsworth, for example, right? Like that's an incredible amount of work to get to where he is at this point. And like, that's a mentor that, you know, helped him get to where he is.
Definitely.
So I don't know where he went for culinary school. I know he's from like Shingletown or whatever, but up by Chico, kind of like where I'm from, and just like a NorCal kid. And now he's got his own restaurant and it's really successful. And
it's crazy though, because like there'll be people that come into this game with no training, and just win.
That's true.
Just absolutely crush, and you're like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
David Barzilay, Lazy Bear.
I'm not sure.
A lawyer.
Was he?
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
huh?
I think so.
He just did some pop-ups.
David, shout out to David.
Yeah, shout out to David Barzilay. I'm not sure.
And he's really intelligent and incredibly talented.
Yeah.
And like his concept was revolutionary.
Honestly, it was, yeah, for the time. I don't think anybody's done it since.
No, and they're still doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Lazy Bear.
Yeah.
Get your tickets.
That place put a lot of people on the map as far as like alumni that they've had.
And cocktailing and the wine program and hospitality.
Pastry.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating. I love to be part of it. I want to support restaurants. I want restaurants to support restaurants. I want vendors like Lone Mountain to be right in the middle of it. We got to spread the word, man. We got to get people out there. I went to Monk's Kettle the other day, 16th and Valencia, between Valencia and Guerrero, because the owner, he wrote an open letter to San Francisco, and I found it on social media. I'll send it to you after the show. And, you know, Monk's Kettle is opening in Rockridge. They've got one in San Rafael. I didn't know that, actually. And they're opening one in Rockridge, but they're closing the iconic brew pub on 16th Street. And he talks a lot in the letter about how culture has changed in San Francisco, and I don't need to like summarize the whole thing, but it's basically like, look, before like the delivery apps, people would come in, they'd order an entree, they'd order some apps, they'd have a few beers. That was how it was. Now they get it delivered to their house, and they're not coming in, they're not having that extra beer or whatever. And it's changed their business quite a bit. Yeah. That's what he says in the letter, at least. And I thought about it. And so I was moved by his letter, and I literally went to the restaurant the next day because it was, again, one of those places, kind of like Barbaco, that like sort of translates my time in San Francisco, just like my whole adult life, basically. And we need to like support these places, right? Because it's nice to have a Belgian brew bar around the corner that has some good beers on tap and like some good food. And
we're all they got. We're all they got.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, I tell a lot of my cooks, I'm like, you know, it's easy to just go home and DoorDash it.
Right.
Like that's the easy way.
You know, doesn't appeal to me at all.
Yeah. But I mean, you think about it though, it's like, you know, you get yourself a couple things and you're already at $50. It's like
crazy,
man. That's an appetizer, a small entree, and a beer at anywhere.
Right.
You know, and just having that experience of walking to a bar by yourself, sitting in the middle of strangers, and
me, you, and Jacqueline, San Francisco.
Yeah,
next
you know
week,
what I'm saying?
Let's go.
No phones. no phones.
This is the new thing. Like in Amsterdam, there's got these cafes that are like analog. So they're like no phones, no like tablets, just people like knitting, reading books, visiting.
Yeah. I think that's the next important part is getting people off the screens.
Yes.
Which is, it's hard to say, right? Because a lot of these businesses, they rely on their Instagram.
Right.
They rely on the social media.
No, but you're right. That's the next step.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I've never been to Single Thread, but I could imagine a place like that at some point. Maybe they're already doing it and just being like, your phone goes here or whatever, and like a caddy, and then it comes back at the end of the meal. And they're like, if you want professional pictures of everything you ate, we have those.
Yeah,
we can send those.
We got you. We got your back.
We have those like at every angle.
Because there is that, like, you'll see people take a picture, put it on fucking Yelp, and you're like looking at it, you're like, that doesn't do any justice to my fucking dish.
Right.
This person makes my restaurant look like shit.
That's right.
You know? And, you know, it's just the ecosystem that we live in.
I have a funny story about that. So we used to work with Musket Room on the Lower East Side. Chef Matt Lambert, who's down in New Zealand, chefing for Rod and Gun, and that's where he's from. And I remember one time I had like taken a picture of his lamb dish, and I think I put it in my stories. And then he went downstairs and was like, there wasn't enough sauce on the dish that I had taken the picture of.
Yeah.
And like he was corrective around it because it was like happening in the moment, right? Because like I posted it to my story and he was like, that dish is like, it's not good. It's not right. Like, and I was like, it was great, man. It was like, it was so great. But he's like, no, I need more jus like over there. And I was like, damn, that's some like, because I didn't think about it that way. And of course, Matt is like this fantastic photographer and like, incredible chef. And he built like such beautiful dishes and everything. But every time he sees a picture of his food, he's like, fuck, like, that's not how I wanted it to look. He wanted to look the way that he made it, right?
Yeah.
And it's not exactly that way all the time. And I never thought about it that way. I mean, you must understand that. There's like this obsession with it almost.
There really is, because, I mean, you only see what you see, right? But you're trying to impart on all these cooks that has to look this way.
Right.
And that's another part of the industry that I think it's almost the best part, is like that undying servitude. Like, I will do whatever my chef asked me to do, no matter what.
Right.
And whereas now it's more of like well, how does that benefit me?
Right.
And in this lesson that you're teaching me, like, what is the lesson here?
Yeah.
And it's like, just peel the dates, okay?
Like, it's simple again.
Yeah, you'll get faster at peeling dates. This is the lesson.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you think of the bear?
I thought it was well done.
It was really
I mean, look, it's taken a year's worth of drama and squeezing it into 8 episodes. So yeah, like, it is a little like over the top.
It talks about that servitude though. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah, you're in service to everyone when you're at a restaurant. You're in service to the front of the house, the back of the house, the chef, the dishwasher, the plumber that comes in to do your plumbing in the bathroom because that backed up. Like, everyone that walks in through the door deserves hospitality, love, and respect no matter what. And if everyone is on that same page, those are the best restaurants.
So this is the show that everyone's been asking you about, and all the chefs in the world. Everyone's like, "Oh, what do you think of the bear?" Everyone's asking me what Yellowstone really like. I'm like, way less murder.
There you go.
Life. So much less murder.
Yeah, it's like, I haven't murdered anyone.
There's been 0 trips to the train station, like the actual like drop off at the body place. That doesn't happen in the ranch. I mean, there's some drama. There's sometimes fights and stuff like that.
Is Yellowstone about cattle ranching?
It's about what it's mainly about. You know what it's about? It's about a ranch in Montana, and it's about preserving the ranching way with like flashy money coming in to like Big Sky, Jackson Hole, and they're like, we're gonna take it over and make a resort out of it.
Right.
And they're like, the hell you are. We're like, this is our place. This is our fucking ranch. Like, we're gonna do that. So it has nothing. It's not about cattle ranching. It's a drama, right? It's dramatic as hell. It's fun. And so when I think about the bear, I think it's really cool. I think it's really great how they kind of glorify, and they also bring some like darkness around like the industry.
There is some darkness there.
But to be honest, it's just a really entertaining show more than it is a show about like truth to like, it's not like a perfect.
It's not a documentary.
Yeah, no. But it's like it's entertaining television. And so is Yellowstone. Yeah. But Yellowstone's not trying to be about like real life on a ranch. It's really dramatic. But the bear I thought was like really beautiful, and I thought the acting was like fantastic, obviously. But I did enjoy some aspects of it with how like it can be pretty edgy sometimes. If it's
Definitely.
it depends on the personalities. It can also be super chill, you know, not like that at all. It just depends on the kitchen, you know, and wow, it's different from kitchen to kitchen. Like it's like going to different countries almost.
Definitely. I think it's it does a good job of catching the little nuances of what happens between the madness. Because there's a lot of time in this work where you're like, you know, you're fucking taking your tweezers and you're like scraping the crust off of the fridge corners. You know what I mean? And
Right.
it's like that, those little times where that's when you have your best epiphanies on what you're doing in your career. It's never on the line. Like
Right.
it's always after the fact.
See, this is why a lot of chefs love butchery.
Yeah.
Because butchery is that in Japan, they call it polishing, the polishing the meat, right? Which is like a direct translation. And it's like, only a chef would understand what that means, right? Like a layman's not gonna be like, oh, you're polishing the meat. That makes no sense.
Right, right.
But you're like shaving it, right? You're just coaxing everything out of it just the right way. That's like seductive.
Yeah.
You get like in a zone.
For sure.
It's like a Zen kind of thing almost, right? Where you're like, nothing else matters.
It
like
is.
You're completely focused.
Especially when you get into a time in your career where you're experienced and you're doing it kind of like with your eyes closed.
Right.
That is what I imagine it feels like to be like Tiger Woods when you're about to hit that ball and nothing else in the world exists except for you and your hands, you know? And that is that small moment. It doesn't happen a lot, but when it does, it makes all the shit worth it.
Wow.
And, you know, for a diner's perspective, that's the ratatouille moment. Because
Yeah.
you're just fucking with olfactory. That's all you're trying to do. You're just trying to bring back certain memories and certain things in someone's life through your experiences.
Wow.
And when you hit it, and when that person like literally cries at the table or has an experience like that, fucking, it's all worth it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's why wine's so great, right? Because wine does that to you.
Exactly.
Damn. You just opened my eyes,
Yeah,
man.
dude.
I had never thought about like a Tiger Woods moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's heavy.
I always just try to put myself in other people's shoes. And I always think like, what did this person think during the most pressured time in their life? And golf is the easiest one to be like at this moment, because it's hole 18 of fucking, it's like very easy to say it, right?
It's crazy.
But then there's like LeBron James, who's like doing
Last night
it
even.
Yeah, who's like doing it with a time clock and 450 people scream, however many people are in there screaming, and it's like that person does it then,
Right.
and that's like even more of a mind fuck.
Well, I watched last night, and I was like, the Knicks won, the Lakers lost. It was craziest games in one night, and LeBron was still great, even through during all that.
Yeah,
and it's like, wow,
right.
He's like a great chef on the floor.
Those are the cooks that you're like, everyone else in the kitchen went down except for this guy.
That's incredible.
Like, and you have those. Like, I by no means am the best cook.
You're not the LeBron
like,
James.
No. I'm like, dude, John Hong, probably, you know,
Right.
Cat, like those people.
NBA, they're NBA.
They're like,
players.
they're Yodas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, it takes a certain amount of time put into something, and someone else that knows more than you, literally on top of you, demanding nothing but perfection.
Right.
That doesn't happen everywhere in the world. Maybe 10% of the world feels that.
Wow.
And after a while, you are like, what am I doing?
Right.
You know, and I don't think a lot of chefs get past that.
Got it. So, but those chefs you mentioned are like LeBron in some ways because they're driven by their own mentality.
Exactly. There's nothing that stops them from being the best.
Right.
No matter what.
Like in their case, like with Costa, like it's a mentor. He was only amplifying what they already had.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what makes that guy great, because he identifies talent and knows where to put it for it to be the best. I've never seen him like as a line cook, But I can tell you this, he's probably not like the best raw natural line cook there ever was. You know what I mean?
Right.
But he's a good chef because he knows where to put the pieces and where they best work and how to get the best out of someone.
Yeah.
You know, and how to make them push for more even when they think that they don't have it. 12 Days is a great example of that because it's a marathon.
Leadership.
Yeah. And you're working from 4 a.m. to 1, to 1 a.m. and then another chef comes in, just flew in from Japan, and he's fresh because it's the afternoon in Japan and he wants to get going. And it's like, okay, we're working.
Right.
Like there's no is not an answer.
And it's their Super Bowl.
Yeah. It's the Super Bowl every night, especially in 3 Michelin restaurants.
They're all like badass.
Yeah. And so like I even would say that like this podcast is the goal, definitely. But even if I fucking make it to like fucking Steve Harvey status, like Anthony Bourdain status, like I will still work in a 3 Michelin star restaurant or like at least stage or something, because that energy, it doesn't get created anywhere else. You work casual, and casual is fine. It's cool. But like when people are paying upwards of $300 a meal, you have to deliver.
Right.
These people are planning these meals, saving up all year, fucking planning their trips around it.
Yeah.
And if you fail them, you don't fail them.
You don't fail them.
That's it. There's no choice.
It's true.
And when you make it so you have no choice, I feel like that's when I get the best out of me.
Yeah. And
that's when a lot of these guys who are cooks but treat it like I'm an athlete get the best out of themselves.
Right. Well, we did a lot of dining when we were in Italy this fall, and we went to one place in Venice called Local. Mm-hmm. I was just thinking about your kind of goals, right? And if this gets you where you can go, maybe you could be staging around the world, not just around the country.
Yeah.
But this place Local, they do this like a amuse-bouche where they come out and they like stick it in your mouth. And they wrote about it. People wrote about it on the boards and like, I wasn't sure about it. And my girlfriend and I, we thought it was like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And it was like such an incredible experience. Like the food was so insane. The service was like so insane. And you're right. It's like they come through. We're all the way across the world. And it could have fallen on his face, right? But it didn't fall on his face. And it wasn't because we didn't know what was going on. We knew what was going on. They knew what was going on. And they came through. Right? They scored. Mm-hmm. They fucked it up.
Yeah.
They killed it. and they did this whole wine pairing with like large format wines that were, by the way, amazing. Like so delicious. And it was like one of the best meals of the whole year, if not our life. And that's what you're talking about. People are coming to Napa Valley. They're coming to San Francisco. They're coming to Chicago. They're coming to Miami. They're coming to like BFE, Texas sometimes to have some guy's food or some woman's food. And yeah, you have to come through.
Right.
So that was one of my experiences this year. And for me, most of the times it comes through. I've been really lucky, but I think that's again, like the industry gives. If like I'm a diner who wants to appreciate what someone's doing for me. So that comes across right when I come in, right? Cause like, I want to have their cocktails. I want to have their menu. I'm not trying to like order a bunch of stuff that's not on there. Right. And I think that helps restaurants be more successful when people are like bought in.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has to be bought in, from the dishwasher to the chef. Like everyone needs to believe in the system and where it's going and what the goals are. And that was what made Meadowood great.
Yeah.
And that's what makes any place, any team great, right? They just want to win. I just got into F1. I've been watching that documentary.
Nice.
And I'm like, it's the same shit.
It's the same stuff.
It's like, you got your driver. He's the chef.
Yeah, people are crazy.
And you better have those wheels ready, and you better fucking put them on quick, and whatever it takes. And if they win, you win.
Wow, that's maybe a better analogy than even a golfer. Which a golfer makes perfect sense.
Right.
An F1 driver is like, that's a chef. Right?
Yeah.
Just precise,
boom,
focused,
moving the team along, and then you got your cooks there with the tires.
They're all amazing too.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And as long as you believe in one thing, then you're good. Yeah. What fucks us up is when we try to convolute everything with like caring what other people think.
Right.
I think that you're better off as a chef doing your food and failing, having your restaurant closed for whatever reason,
Right.
than trying to appease the masses and winning.
Agreed.
You know? Hell yeah.
I think that that Lone Mountain, one thing that I think sets us apart is that we're not going out to some panel and saying, how do you want your steak to be? Like, we're not going to you and saying, we're going to make this like a chef-driven product. We're saying we know what a great product is. We know what we delivered to chefs before. We know what chefs expect out of a certain quality of Wagyu beef, for example. And that's our target. So it kind of is self-fulfilling a little bit, but it sort of fills into what you're talking about with, we're not like making it for a certain customer. We're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
Right. With what we have and with what we have at our hands. And this is our discretion on what we think the best is for what we're doing. Right. And we hope others agree. And I think I talked about it earlier, which is like the combination of like that richness of like sort of American beef, which by the way, I still love. I don't know how you feel about like
fucking love it. You kidding me?
Go to like a Bavette's in Chicago or Vegas or whatever and have like just like a regular American steak, but in a really nice way.
Oh yeah.
It's good. And then with the Wagyu flavor. So I don't know. It's not a Franken food. It's an artisan food. It's a food that comes from Bob's passion. And like, I mean, Bob was like a chef. Bob, the owner of the company, Bob Esserin, was a film editor. He edited like Badlands, A River Runs Through It. I just was watching one the other day. Anyways, a bunch of films he's edited. And so it's interesting to work for an editor. And you would understand as someone who worked for great chefs, because great chefs are editors, really. And it makes you think about everything, because when they were in your position, they thought about everything. Because an editor, an artistic editor, like a film editor, like that's their whole job, is to curate the film, is to make it perfect. And so when he was approaching the Wagyu business, he approached it from like an artistic, like editor standpoint, with obviously the science blended in. But even describing, like he would get in like these, we write like paragraph long descriptions around every animal, like when we put them in a sale. And this comes from Bob, and he would get back into all the genealogy and all the reasons why. And it's almost like his craft was what it was about, and the byproduct was this amazing food product. But it was like he was in striving for something that was greater than just beef, right? It was like beyond what we had experienced before. And that was what fueled him, excuse me, in his entire career. So I feel like really privileged to like carry that on. It's almost like I'm working for a chef in my own world, right? Like I'm carrying on a tradition, and I need to have that attention to detail and that focus that he's brought. And I think we're doing pretty well. So
damn right, bro. Doing way better than when I first saw you.
Yeah.
You know, and we all knew it. I mean, you taste that beef and you know. I've tasted Japanese Wagyu, and I like yours the best, because it has that also, that meat. You know what I mean? It's not all just fat.
Well, especially in a fine dining atmosphere.
Yeah.
When you're having a morsel. Like when we were at the ranch, we would cook A5 sometimes. And if I'm doing like steamed rice, Japanese, serious steamed rice, like very simple, and then just like a little bit of A5, like on a bed of rice, like eating it, like very simple, right? That's beautiful. But in a tasting menu, the A5 can be, and I'm not here to be critical, we love A5, I think it's great, but it's kind of like over the top sometimes.
It definitely is, yeah.
All the accoutrement and how rich the meal's been already. Yeah. And so
you see a lot of it come back.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's interesting, right? And in Japan, the A5 has taken it too far. So they've gotten to like 70, 80% IMF. And we've learned a lot from like Japanese butchers have said the meat is too marbled for the consumer here, especially the forequarter, like the shoulder meat and the chuck and the rib meat. It's so thickly marbled.
Right.
That people don't want to eat it necessarily.
Just render it out, basically.
Right. So we don't need to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
We can stop before that point. So that's our art, and I guess that is understanding a little bit, but it's also common sense. It's like too much is too much at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You take anything too far, and then you've gotten off track.
Definitely. You got to. It's just it's always a balance, no matter what you're doing.
You got to keep that balance.
You know,
work-life balance, lean fat balance.
Right.
You know, acid, fat balance, all that stuff. Right.
It all works, man. At the end of the day, if you think of the creator, whoever created this world, created seasons, and created things that go together, and it's like, you know, like in Puerto Rico they call it ensalada de patio. It's like you go out in your yard, what's growing, that's the salad.
Yeah.
There's no you don't have to think about
that's
it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, all the answers are there.
The patio salad.
Yeah, that's it.
I love that.
The answers are there for you, and you know, your company gives us one more answer.
Yeah.
To what's going to be on the menu.
But it does beg a question, which is like, is food going to be better in 20 years? Or is it just going to be different than it is now?
I think it's going to be different. I wouldn't necessarily say better. I know that a lot of the things that we grow nowadays doesn't have as much it's not nutrient dense like it used to be. But I think that our bodies are learning to just deal with it.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point we're going to be 5% plastic. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just a matter of time. And
well, I wasn't even saying is food being better. I'm talking about like in fine dining, for example, is like the menu in 2035 or 2040 going to exceed the best of the restaurant at Meadowood, for example, in its heyday.
Right.
2015, 2016, 2017, whatever. I don't know where the peak was. I guess it wasn't really a peak. It was all the way to the end. I would say no. I would say it's not going to be better or worse. It's going to be different.
Yeah. It's like Jordan and LeBron. You know, like.
That's right.
It's the age old, like, you know.
But Jordan's better, though, right?
Yeah. I think so.
Maybe.
I think so. Who knows?
I think the beef is going to be probably better in 2040.
I mean,
probably. But
given that you use science and know how science progresses, it's only going to get better.
It's going to be kind of, it's going to be silly.
You know,
you're going to be like, remember that last time we had a bad steak like 17 months ago?
Yeah.
Or that place in Kansas?
Exactly.
Like, it was supposed to be so good. It was just like, kind of mediocre.
I'm sure they're going to figure out a way to map out the trail that food takes in this world.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're going to be able to open an app and it's going to be able to tell you what, you know, the beef that you brought at the supermarket came from here.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, it's all marketing, and at some point that's going to matter, and they're going to hop on it and do that, you know.
I just hope we have diversity in the future, and it's not all the same, you know.
I think we will, because there's people like you and me.
That's true.
You know, I think that there is a huge population of people that are just okay with whatever you put in front of me, I'm good.
Right.
And those people are important.
Yeah.
Because then they make us different, you know, and like, oh, David and Reid, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't think that it's necessary to bring everyone into our world also. You know, like, I'll share this world, and if you want to be a part of it, be a part of it, but I'm not going to preach to you about it.
Yeah.
And try to like convert you. You know, because I do feel like a lot of food professionals do that.
Except for my children. They need to know.
Yeah, right? But you got them from the ground up, so that's easy.
Everyone else, well, but it still takes work.
Definitely.
You know, and like my son, he's 13, and, you know, he's like on social, as all kids are pretty much. And, you know, he has this whole belief that like Raising Cane's is like the thing. And I mean, it's okay, but it's like, to me, it's not like you can make a much better like fried chicken nugget.
Right.
I mean, you can make like a stupid chicken tender. It would be so good. And that's not to say that that's like that bad either.
Right.
But it's like, I just want them to know, you know, because like that's the difference.
Yeah.
If that's what you think is the best. And I'm not saying that it's not good. It's fine. But it's like, educate yourself. Spread out. Like, So I want to take them to restaurants, and I mean, this is a whole other different. So, like bringing kids into experiences. I'm not saying like the restaurant at Meadowood, but into experiences like Rintaro.
And you should.
Absolutely. I would love to bring them to Parabaco. I'd love to bring them to A16.
Yeah.
You know, that's like a really cultural experience to go to A16 and have like legit Neapolitan pizza. It's a beautiful place. It's fun.
All that's fun, and I appreciate you as a dad doing that because it makes our future chef's life easier.
Yes.
And you create another patron of great restaurants.
Right.
Instead of the chain, go to the chain. No, fuck the chain, fuck the DoorDash. We're going here.
That's what I say.
You know, yeah. And they're going to say like, oh, Dad would love this.
Yeah.
And so that's it, baby.
Well, the restaurants are what butters our bread, and they're in our hearts more than that, though. So I'm like ride or die. So for me, it's like it's our whole being, our whole existence, and I need to take my whole crew out to Albuquerque and to go to 4505 and to Market Steer when they open up again and get all of the ranch hands and out to town, because I love to bring them in connection with the chefs and connection with the food, because it shouldn't be just for us to experience, right? And they do appreciate it, and it may be a little awkward sometimes, but I'm like, I love that. I love to like connect.
I
the
love
dots.
awkward.
Yeah, it's great.
Awkward is like, you know, when you're, like you said, going through the growing pains of and actually just about to make that turn. I feel like that's what it is socially. Like when it's awkward, it's like the fight or flight kicks in. It's like, do I continue talking to this person or do I tell them to fuck off?
Growth opportunity.
Yeah, and when you actually say, nah, even if we don't get along or we don't see it the same way, let me still steer it in this direction of conversation. And you learn something from it.
It can be hard sometimes, though.
Yeah, definitely.
We live in a very divided world these days.
Yeah. I try not to think about that, though.
I haven't watched the Civil War movie yet, but
you know what?
Podcast
don't go fucking watch it,
man.
You sure? I'll tell you what. Yeah, it's not what you think it is.
Okay.
I thought that it was about a legit civil war.
Yeah.
What it is it's like for me, that movie was made for journalists. It was made for war journalists.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and it was okay.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like I thought that it was going to be like if we had a civil war today, what it would be like. It was almost like they fast forwarded to the end of the Civil War. And I'm not.
No spoilers.
No spoiler alerts.
Sucio Talk.
We'll see how you like it.
I don't want a civil war to happen.
I don't want it either. You know what I mean? You know, I used to tell Costa this all the time. I'm like, if a race war breaks out, Costa, I will shoot you right in the face.
Boom.
That's straight up. He'd be like, I don't know why you're saying that. And I'm
know.
like, yeah, I don't know either.
I'd have to run back to the country, man.
It's a dirty joke.
Well, I mean, life's dirty, and
that's why it's Sucio, baby.
Yeah,
people don't understand that.
People don't know that.
It's like, oh, Sucio, that's dirty. You shouldn't say that. You're a chef.
So I got to give a shout out to my colleague,
Sid
Doris, who's my ride or die Lone Mountain employee, coworker, bestie, and she's like, you know what Sucio means, because she's from Mexico originally, and I'm like, dirty, and she's like, yeah, dirty, and it's like dirty talk, and I'm like, that's. His name is Sucio. And she's like, I know. And she's like, I'm one of the Sucias. The Sucias.
Yeah.
So she's like a kind of like a, what do they call it? Like ultra runner. Like she likes to go run on trails.
Yeah.
And so she has these girls she's friends with, and they're friends, and they have a club, and it's called like the Sucias.
Whoa. Sucias. Okay.
And it's like they get dirty running out on the trails.
Yeah.
There's more to it than just that, but it was tying back to the name.
Shout out to the Sucias.
Yeah, the heritage of our business.
Hey, man.
Yeah. So Sucio,
hell yeah, baby.
Yeah, that's what life is, Sucio sometimes, man.
It always is. You know what I mean? You're always battling the balance of your mind.
Yeah.
Like, you know, do I go negative here or do I go positive here? I don't know. You're always like looming in that, you know, and it's not an easy thing to be a human being.
Yeah, but it's good to get dirty.
Definitely.
100%.
Definitely. Some people don't have a choice.
Yeah, you got to get dirt under the nails, and then when you clip them off, then you're clean, right? But
Right.
my hands are
Cattle ranch, baby.
Yeah, cattle ranch. They got hard
How
hands.
do they find Lone Mountain Wagyu, Chef?
Okay. So our direct-to-consumer product is lonemountainwagyu.com, and that's where all the steaks and ground beef and roasts and stuff like that are on there. I'm Reid, R-E-I-D, at lonemountainwagyu.com. That's my email, so they can hit me up there. But also on the website, there's like ways of like contacting us for like wholesale opportunities. We work with chefs all over the country. We can drop ship into your spot, and yeah, we're actually like looking to sell. So hit me up.
Awesome, hell yeah. Reid Martin.
Oh, also on Instagram, obviously.
Reid Martin on Instagram.
No, Lone Mountain Wagyu again. Oh, Reid D Martin, but Lone Mountain Wagyu.
We want to get you some followers too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Followers. we still love that community, to be honest. Like, I think social has gotten so weird, but
chefs do it best.
Chefs do it best, and I think our content's really good. And we have a woman we work with on the social side, and Jen, she does a great job, and she's a person. And it's real stuff, and we're working with people around the country. So if influencers out there that are interested in working with us, would be totally down to like hang. Let's roast some beef. Let's smoke some brisket.
Chef, you got a chef influencer right here.
I know. Let's go.
Let's go.
We need the lineup.
Well, I was trying to. My first thought with the road trip that I did last year was, or 2 years ago now, was legitimately like, go and cook food on the side of the road in random places.
That'd be cool.
With beautiful views. Just like in an RV, boom, pull over, Weber, meat.
Do it in front of the ranch.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I'd love to.
The ranch is on the Turquoise Trail. It's the most beautiful place to be on the side of a road, literally with a grill. I can't think of a more beautiful place. Maybe somewhere like in Mexico would be like just as beautiful.
Yeah.
Or maybe Colorado. Colorado has some beautiful roads. Like when you're on the edge of like nowhere.
Yeah.
And you're like on the edge of a road. California too, to be honest. But you can go anywhere in the country.
California, Arizona.
Anywhere in the country.
Yeah, this country is beautiful when you get to the
Long Island.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
You get out there like Sag Harbor or out towards Montauk off of some state road.
Podcast on a boat.
Beautiful.
That's also coming too.
Nice.
Sucio Talk Podcast, Oakland, California. Hanging out Reid Martin, Lone Mountain Wagyu. Check them out. I'll see you guys next time. Chef, this is a 3-hour podcast almost.
This is long.
Lord of the Rings.
Thank you so much.
Boom. Thank you, Chef. Peace. All right. There we go.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
3 hours.
Yeah, baby. 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Cut it down?
Nah.
No.
I just throw